nobody's going to work harder for you than you. I was, trying to get a start in music, and, I can ask so many people, how do I do this thing? Or, you can ask people to book you at a show, or you can, ask someone to manage you, or whatever it may be. But you have to understand, as a professional, there's not a single person that's going to do the work for you.
Cam Cathcart, what's up, man?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Welcome, everyone, to the podcast. This is the Better Life podcast with Brandon Turner and Cam Cathcart. Normally, I let you say your own name. I didn't today.
I know.
Today's episode, we're talking with a country musician, music star named Wynn Williams. We'll get into him in a little bit. Actually, this was a super unique show. In fact, for 10 plus years since I've been podcasting, people have been asking me to do a show just like this. I get pitched with this idea all the time, and I've never done it until today. And that is, although Wynn's gotten into real estate, he owns a few properties, we actually spent the whole time coaching through his future. Cam and I sat there, and I mean, coaching is maybe the wrong word, but like talking through what does it take for him to get from where he's at right now with a couple units all the way up to $15,000 a month in passive income. So we walked through a 6-step framework to doing that.
Yeah, it was amazing. I learned a lot.
Yeah, good,
just
man.
listening to it. So
it's fun. It's always a good reminder too to like talk through the idea of taking, like, basically bridging the gap between where you are and where you want to get to, and how do we build that bridge solid to be able to get there? How do you define where you want to get to and then build that solid bridge? So that's what we did today. So
it was incredible.
let's talk about some highs. What have you been doing?
Man.
What's cool in your life?
My parents are in town right now. They came out to Maui, and my brothers.
That's
so
cool.
we're going to play golf.
Your brothers?
My
They look like
brothers.
you?
Not as good looking, but
Your dad's awesome. We went paddleboarding with your dad
he's
last
great.
year.
Yeah.
I like that dude.
We're going to go paddleboarding again. You should come.
I might come.
Yeah.
That was a good time. We had a great conversation.
So
Very cool,
I'm going to
man.
beat him in golf, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a good time. What about you? What's a win?
I'm going to say a win is this. I have been working on this REIOS system, which we actually talk a lot about today. And it's probably one of the reasons I wanted to go this direction today on the show is because I've been spending absurd amounts of hours working on it. And I just finished this morning. I got finished with the whole 96-page document that we're going to be bringing out and introducing. So by the time this episode airs, it's out. So if you want to know more about the Better Life Tribe, of course, and how we use the whole process we're talking about today to help people, and how the Better Life Tribe can help you buy more real estate, just go to abetterlife.com. But that said, let's get to today's show.
Let's do it.
Anything
I can't
you
wait.
do before we bring him in? I think that's it, right?
Dude, no.
That's
I'm
it.
excited for it.
All right, well, here we go. Let's bring in our guest today, Wynn Williams.
Wynn Williams. That sounds like a name.
It does sound like a name.
Oh, it is a name. It is a name.
Wynn Williams, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
Dude, so I know you as a country music star. We're going to say star. Do you like star? Is that good?
Hey,
Star.
whatever you want.
Country musician.
Come on, keep it
star.
coming.
All right. Just off a tour out in Europe. I know you got some hit songs out there. I know you've been dabbling in real estate, got a few units of your own. We're going to talk about that today and what it looks like to scale that. But, if that's who you are today, take us back. Who was Wynn Williams? And is that even your real name?
That's my real name. That's my
country name.
my name given to me by my parents, who raised me in Weatherford, Texas,
Okay.
and they were both blue collar folks. Very middle class blue collar family. Both of them worked 9 to 5s. My dad was in the military for 20 years as well, and I kind of learned a lot from them. Just observing how they loved each other in their marriage. I think this year will be like 32 years. I could be wrong. I probably should do a better job at knowing that.
I don't know how long my parents have been
Maybe
married,
35 years. I'm not 100% sure. But I watched them, create a loving family. I watched them work hard to give their kids, exactly what we needed growing up. And whenever I got into high school, I decided I wanted to join choir. And so that's kind of how I got my start in singing, if you will. I always sang my whole life, but it wasn't really until choir that I learned that I just loved to do it so much. And so I was in choir for 4 years in high school. I also started rodeoing in high school. So those are like my two extracurriculars, if you will. And
In Texas, is there a lot of choir and rodeo people?
Probably
That
not.
Doesn't feel like
yeah. Probably not. I feel like that's maybe a
Unique
rare
little-
occasion. Yeah, but
Were you in choir? Cam?
I was not in choir.
Were you in band?
I was not
You were
in
in sports,
band.
though.
I was in sports.
You're
But
the cool
what-
one. Yeah, we were the nerds. I was in choir.
He was a rodeo.
Yeah, you
What-
were-
What
that
is
rodeo was
funny
cool.
though, when you say Wynn Williams, because it's a perfect country name.
It is perfect.
When we were naming Cade, and this sounds so, I'm embarrassed to admit this. I went through like what sounds great on an announcer. Saying, it's like Cade Cathcart, like
funny.
Wynn Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can just
That
imagine.
alliteration, like house hacking. People
House
love
Hack,
people love
Cade
alliteration.
Cathcart,
Yeah.
Wynn Williams.
Yep.
Brandon Turner.
Beardy Brandon.
There we
See?
go.
Let's
Dude,
go.
we did it. That's why we did Beardy Brandon. There's magic in alliteration. Yeah, actually, I read I was an article once about that, but it's about how many different companies are just like that. PayPal,
Yes.
and things that are like that. Even things like Starbucks have. It's not the alliteration, but it's the S and S at the beginning and end.
Oh,
and there's something to
okay.
that too. There's a whole marketing scheme around the way things sound.
Yeah.
So Wynn Williams, your parents knew what they were doing. Marketing
Well,
genius.
you're starting to sound like a songwriter, so careful, guys.
Watch out.
We might just
Make
pin
a
one
long
out while we're
story
sitting here
short.
today.
There we go.
But
All right, so you got rodeo.
yeah, so started rodeo in high school and took that all the way through college. Went to Weatherford College for a couple years, and then I transferred to Texas A&M where I rodeoed for a semester. But I was also paying my own way at that point, and expenses started to add up, and I wasn't winning any money. So I decided that I would, step away from rodeo and focus a little bit more on like not necessarily education, but professional development. So doing internships and working a little bit to try and build the resume before I ultimately decided my senior year of college that I wanted to pursue music full time, and graduated in December of 2016 from Texas A&M and immediately started playing music full time. And I've been fortunate enough to do that for a living since.
What are you doing?
Go ahead.
Were you doing gigs all throughout college, or
I would do the occasional gig like freshman year through junior year. I would get booked for like the hometown rodeo or, maybe an event in College Station. But really it wasn't until the summer of my senior year I started playing gigs at this venue called The Tap in College Station. And then from there I just started to branch out doing acoustic gigs everywhere. And then finally got to where I had enough dates to get a band together. And so once I had that problem of filling the dates, I was able to solve the problem of getting a band, and that was in September of 2018. So ever since then, it's been full-fledged, on the road with a band.
What does that look like financially in terms of like who's paying you? What do you work in bars? You work in stadiums, somewhere in between? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a little bit of mix of everything, man. I mean, we've played arenas, we've played tiny little restaurants and bars where the stage is as big as a Post-it note. And of course, we've gone overseas and done stuff in Europe too, which is incredible to me. But basically, at this point in time, it's like anybody that will hire you,
Yeah.
just get the gig. And financially, it's not. I heard Mark Cuban say one time, it's the worst business to be involved in is the music business. And he's probably right, but here I am today doing it.
Yeah, because I feel like the people at the top, like the real big ones, like the Luke Bryan, Florida Georgia Line, like they're making ridiculous amounts of money,
Right.
And everybody else is not.
We're just the peasants beneath them. Yeah.
Well, and I have a friend who was in some big bands, but he was their bass player, I
Okay.
believe. But big bands, but they had like their 3 years and then really nothing afterwards.
Sure.
And I always thought that he was just loaded.
Yeah.
Like I thought that he was
Oh,
so
yeah.
rich because you would hear him on the radio and you'd see their CDs in stores. And I was talking to him and I realized he didn't make hardly any money at all. He had a couple good
Right.
years, but doesn't make very much money at all, which was wild to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially now with streaming the way it is, there's not really music sales anymore. So I don't know what the exact number is, but I think like 1 million streams is $3,000.
Okay.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But
I heard a stat the other day. Might be totally wrong. You can tell me if this is right, but somebody said that if you grab an old iPhone, put it on Wi-Fi or whatever, and then go to Spotify and just stream your song 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for an entire month, you can make $1,200 a month. Have you heard that?
no, I haven't. I haven't done the math, but
it said it was like unethical life hack. Like put a song on Spotify. It was like put a 12-second song or 30-second song, and then have it play on repeat
wow.
for a month. You can make $1,200 a
yeah,
month.
I actually don't know what the threshold is, like what counts as a stream. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
on
I don't
YouTube,
know.
it's like however many seconds is a full view or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what that threshold is, but I do remember hearing a while back, this was whenever like Spotify and all these streaming platforms really got started, they had like these massive streaming farms where they would just
I've
like
heard that too. And they had like
yeah.
just hundreds of phones lined up.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and play all of them. Yeah,
right.
I've heard
And
that
I
too.
think they've cracked down.
I'm
on
sure
that,
they. Yeah, I'm sure if Spotify probably has. Look, hey, this one person played that song 87,000
Right.
times. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
I do the same thing except for my competitors for Google AdWords. I'll just Google it, click on it, make them pay a
There
couple
you go.
bucks, do it
Yep,
again.
constantly.
It's over. I've got VAs all over the place doing that.
That's a funny. Okay, that's a horribly
That's really
unethical,
funny.
but it's
don't
really
do that.
funny. No, but it's really funny. It's like, yeah, just go bomb everyone's ads, especially the We Buy House. kind of
Exactly. I
things.
mean, they're
Oh,
paying
yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah, they're paying
for
a lot
that
of
to
money.
be
Yeah,
at the
and
top.
ads, yeah, click is $20-$30
Yeah.
or whatever. So
Dang.
yeah, you just
That's expensive.
you just hire a VA
Had no
to click
idea.
all day long,
Yeah.
just constantly.
I think you have to clear your cookies
yeah,
or whatever,
probably,
but I haven't looked into it or anything.
Yeah.
But that's what I think you have
Yeah,
to do,
yeah.
and then do it again. So.
Yeah, please don't do that to me, please. All right, so
That's funny.
So as a musician, then, like, what drives you in that? If you know, like, you're not going to, unless you become one of the top, which you could. I mean, you're very talented.
Thank you.
But if you don't, is that okay to you? And you know what I mean? Like, will you just keep doing it? If you knew for a fact, maybe this is the way to phrase it. If you knew for a fact you were never going to make millions of dollars, would you still pursue this every day?
I think I would because I do have the freedom to come to Maui on on a Tuesday. I can fly to Maui.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of flexibility and freedom to kind of do essentially whatever I want when I want. And that's to me what life is all about.
Yeah.
I mean, I do not have any interest in sitting behind a desk for 10 hours a day and then commuting another 2 hours a day to be at home for 3 to enjoy company with my wife, and that's what she did, and then she recently quit last year to start her own business. So, we're not making millions of dollars and that's okay.
Yeah.
But we get to enjoy each other. We get to travel together. We get to make memories. Eventually we're going to start a family. So if I knew I wasn't going to make $1 million in music, there's other ways to make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So I can focus on music, but I can also have this other thing going on, which is a lot of what real estate is, in my opinion. You've got folks that have businesses, or maybe they do work the 9 to 5 and they're on a W-2 salary, but they also supplement that with rental income or whatever it may be.
Well, this is where I wanted to take that idea, because it's something I think that most people don't understand. They think they have to work a job they do not like for many, many years, and then they can get into real estate. They can take all their money, and 10 years from now, 5 years, 20 years, whatever, they can get out of their job. But they have to suffer through years of a terrible job in order to get there. My encouragement to people is, why not instead fill that time, even if you make less money, fill that time with something you love and gives you flexibility.
Right.
So if that's entrepreneurship, if it's flipping houses, wholesaling, could be whatever it is, but there's something, could even just be working at a bowling alley. If you love that,
Sure.
like, go do that. It doesn't matter, Jake, as long as you can pay your bills, then you can at least use real estate as your retirement and possibly even early retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like, if you bought one property or 2 properties, you're a millionaire 30 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can accelerate that and buy 1 or 2 every year,
Right.
even if you're only making $10 an hour at some crappy, or a job that you love but you don't make any money from, you can still buy real estate. There's still ways to do that. So that's the encouragement I have for people is, like, pursue something you love, like you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, life's too short to not enjoy what you're doing. There's actually a book, I haven't read it yet, but it's on my Kindle to read. Chad Carson, he wrote The Small and Mighty Real Estate Investor. I need to get on that one.
I love Chad Carson. He's a great dude.
He seems like it just from his social media, and he seems like a really good mentor.
One of my favorite things about real estate is that it allows you, if done correctly, to pursue your passions. Like for me, I do love real estate. I love the game of real estate, but is it like my favorite thing in the world? No, my favorite thing in the world is hanging out with my wife and my kids.
I thought it was me.
And Brandon. It's going up to Brandon's house and sitting in a sauna and cold plunge. That's pretty good. But real estate allows you to do that, and I think that there's so many people that are not utilizing real estate to pursue their passions. I love teaching, and I love hanging out with my wife and my kids, and real estate has allowed me to be able to do that. So
I think that's a good point. I'm kind of like you. I mean, I just love to be with my wife.
Yeah.
It's just, if I could write down what I want to do for a living, it would be just hang out with my wife.
That's cool.
But it's such an interesting thing that you bring that up, because I feel like with the emergence of bigger pockets and guys like yourselves that have social media followings, that have talked about getting into real estate, I think that there's a stigma with real estate that there's a massive barrier to entry. And there might be, but that's where you have to commit to yourself that you're going to spend the time to learn everything you can so that you can do that. And ultimately, you'll get to that financial freedom and you'll get to, whatever goals it is that you want to accomplish.
I think there's a ton of power in just believing that it is, like, once you believe it's possible, like, you'll actually not, you'll do it.
Yeah.
It's like that famous line of, like, whether you say you can or say you can't, you're right.
Yes.
It's like, if you're like, yeah, I can't get into real estate, barrier of entry is too high, I don't have money, I don't have whatever, insert excuse here, therefore I can't do it, you're 100% right, you can't do it.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, even though I have no money or I have no credit or no job, whatever, I'm going to get into real estate anyway, you're 100% right, you will. Yeah. And so I think that's a good mindset to take into it.
Right.
I think mindset is the very first step of investing in real estate.
I would agree. Yeah. I recently listened to a Joe Rogan podcast, and I can't remember who he was interviewing, but he said this quote, and it kind of stuck. I was mowing the lawn at the rental property, and I was listening to it, and he said, life is not so much about the pursuit of happiness as it is happiness in pursuit.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such an interesting thing to say, because when you think about it, we're all pursuing something, whatever it may be, whatever goal we have or thing we want to do, we're all pursuing that. And sometimes maybe we think we're going to be happy when we get there. And then you find once you get there, well, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
And the next thing and the next thing. So you're always pursuing this whatever. But if you just take a second and realize that you're doing kind of exactly what you're meant to be doing at that moment, then you can kind of have some peace and be like, well, if I could just do that, it's like you're doing it. Dude. Just be happy with what you're doing right now.
Love it. So I've got a story about that. It just happened a couple days ago. So I woke up in the morning and I was sitting at my breakfast table. My parents are coming into town with my siblings. They're here now. But the house was trashed. We're going to have 11 people in our house, all under one roof. Had a lot to do. And I was having a little pity party. Like, I was like, man, it just kind of sucks. Like, my life sucks right now, which sounds stupid. And I was like looking, and there's dishes in the sink, and there's a stack of mail on the counter, dirty clothes. We've got 3 kids that just trash our house, and there's hand streaks on the slider doors. And I closed my eyes for a minute. And I just said over and over again, my life is amazing, my life is amazing, my life is amazing, my life is amazing. And the purpose of it was, when I opened my eyes, I was going to reframe everything into why my life is amazing. And so I opened my eyes, and it changed everything. Like, I looked at the pile, the mess in our living room from our kids, and I was like, I've got 3 healthy kids that love to play and are active. Like, my life is amazing. Like, I looked at the dishes in our sink, and I was like, we've never gone without food. Like, we were able to eat at a dinner table every night and have dinner as a family. My life is amazing. I looked at, like, the stack of mail that I knew was going to take me a ton of work, and I was like, we've got multiple thriving businesses right now. My life is amazing. Thinking through, like, my family coming into town, like, I've got parents and siblings who love me and want to come visit us. Like, my life is amazing. And that just in doing so, I legitimately did a 180 in 60 seconds from my life sucks to no, my life is absolutely amazing. So
that's cool. Sometimes it does take that little reset,
Yeah.
And it's okay to do that.
Yeah. So how did you discover real estate? Like, where did that interest come from?
Well, so Dave Ramsey is a guy that I read Total Money Makeover in college, and I feel like everybody needs to read that book.
I agree.
Just to gain an understanding of what finances are, because we're not taught that in school, right? So if you can just learn what it is to handle finances in a responsible way, then you kind of open the door to a bunch of other stuff. So that leads me into, one of his steps is, pay off your home. Well, that's great and all, but then you've got these other folks like yourself and David Green and so many others that are saying, if you've got a handle on your finances and you do this right, you can actually use debt to your advantage. And so once I started learning more about real estate, I was like, well, I kind of understand finances. I'm in a good place. I could probably do this. And so I read your books.
Thank you.
What was it? Buying
Yeah, no one low money down or rental
Yes,
property investing?
buying rental property. I'm
Yeah,
blanking on the names.
The book on
book on
rental
rental
property
property
investing.
Yes,
probably,
yes. And then I read
popular one,
Managing.
yeah. Yep.
I'm currently reading No and Low Money Down.
Yeah, thanks.
But that was really like the way that y'all wrote those books. It was just very step by step. I mean, it's literally like, here's how you do it.
Yeah.
And so I read that, and then I read Managing, and that's what really like jump started everything for us. And then there was a house that was just to the north of us on the other side of the fence line, and the folks that were living there were having a rough time. They were going through a divorce, and they needed to sell that property. So approached them and said, hey, be interested in buying this. And it was not in great shape. It needed a lot of work, but I ran the numbers and it worked. And so that's how we got our start right there, was that one property. And that's our only rental property right now.
Yeah.
We just bought a second one using debt again, and we're going to fix that up and hopefully rent it out. If we can get the rents that we need to cover the note, maybe we do after it's fixed up. But if we don't, then we'll flip it and we'll make money on it.
That first property, did you guys burr out of that, or did you guys?
Nope, we still have that. We use private money on a long-term loan.
That's cool.
And yeah, we're just riding it until we need to refinance.
Love it.
And at that point, we'll do that.
How did you know were they friends of yours? How did you know they were going through a tough time and needed to sell? Or were you marketing to people, or were you just having conversation with your neighbors, or how did that work?
Actually, their dog was very annoying. And this dog would not stop barking at all hours of the evening and in the early morning. And we were talking about it with one of our neighbors, so he went over there and knocked on her door, and it was the wife, and she was like, "Yeah, we're going through these life changes, and we're going to sell the house soon." So anyway, I talked to my neighbor and I said, "Well, why don't you give me your number?" Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how that went about. So if it wasn't for the dog, man, I would have never known.
Well, I love that you pursued it. Like majority of people would have looked at that. And this goes back to the belief, the mindset thing. I'll throw two things in here. If your mindset was, I can't invest in real estate right now, or it's not going to work for me, I don't have time, I'm not good at it, I'm not talented, whatever, you would not have seen the opportunity to then go and pursue it. But because you had the belief, you're like, oh yeah, I can actually do this, which is why books are really helpful, podcasts are helpful, because you kind of adopt, like you get indoctrinated with a belief.
Right.
And so like in a good way, you self-brainwashing is the way I put it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
like
you said something one time, people that write books, they take 20 years of experience and put it into
shove it into one book,
300 pages.
Yeah,
and it's
books
like,
are the most valuable
why would
investment
you
on the
not?
planet.
Yeah. So
you saw it.
that's how it's done, in my opinion. You just got to learn everything you can.
Yeah, that's great, man.
And I'll give another shout out. These 3 books that Brandon wrote with his wife are pretty amazing.
Yeah, she did such a good job. The Managing book gets higher like reviews than anything else. Like
really?
Percentage-wise, everyone loves the Managing book.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, here's exactly how we manage our rental properties.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks, man.
It's super helpful. Honestly, it's really helpful. And between that particular book and just the Bigger Pockets forums, it's like, I mean, that's
amazing. Yeah.
That takes away your barrier to entry.
Yep.
I mean, that can teach you everything you need to know about managing, or if you have a situation arise, just get on there and ask a question, and you're going to have somebody respond.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show today is because I feel like you fit that perfect mold of what most of our listeners are at. And what I mean by that is a couple things. One, I already brought up the fact that like you're doing a career you love. Not most of our people are necessarily doing that. Some are, but I think they should. I think everyone should have a career that they love while they're trying to build real estate. So one, you represent that. And then two, you have got a couple rentals. You got a rental, you got maybe a flip that you might turn into rental, but you're in the game now. You're like a white belt, so to speak, in terms of like jiu-jitsu. I told the story before, but I'll say it again. I was in a Costco one time and I was talking with this gentleman who recognized me from the podcast, and he's like, "Oh, I heard you doing jiu-jitsu." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, what belt are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just a white belt." And he looked at me like all serious and he goes, "Brandon, you're not just a white belt. You are a white belt, but the white belt is the hardest belt to get."
Okay.
And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, because no one else gets it. No one gets it. 99% of Americans will never get their white belt. Even though they give you that belt when you show up, right? That's like your free belt. Like that's your first thing. You don't have to have any talent or skill, but you have to show up. And so he's like, the white belt's the hardest belt because almost nobody gets it.
Yeah.
And so it's like you are a white belt. I love that metaphor because it's like, hey, you're in it. You bought a property. You're in, which is what the BetterLife Tribe is about. Is like you got to buy a property to be in. You have to actually be a white belt. You have to show up and do it. But how do you go from 1 or 2 units to full financial freedom. And that's what I thought we kind of focus on today. Is kind of taking a different approach than a normal podcast.
For sure.
And drive that way. So maybe I'll just start with the idea of where, like, let's the why question. Why do you want financial freedom? Like, why not just pursue the music career forever and just, leave it that way?
Well, eventually I'm probably going to not be able to sing as well as I can now. So that's one reason why I'm not going to focus on that entirely. But I think it's kind of what we talked about earlier, just having the freedom to do whatever we want, when we want, with who we want. And so to me, that's my why. I don't want to be stuck in the everyday American dream, if you will, where people, maybe they go make $100,000, maybe they make a little bit more, but are they really enjoying what they're doing?
Yeah.
And I want to have the freedom to, provide for my kids one day, to where we can put them in whatever school we want, or maybe we can homeschool, or maybe my wife doesn't have to work at some point because she wants to be home raising the kids. So to me, that's my why, and that's why my wife and I are doing this, is so that we can have. I keep going back to it, but it's just the freedom, man. Yeah. I mean, there's no other way to describe our goal than just freedom. Yeah. And I think ultimately that's probably what everybody wants. But again, you have to take action. You have to do the things that are going to get you there. And so whenever you're talking about starting and getting there, I think the first thing you can do is, like I said earlier, just learn as much as you possibly can. And once you figure out where you want to focus, then you can start to really hone in your skills and achieve those things.
Yeah, that's great, man.
That's amazing.
It's not revolutionary. No. It's very simple, but again, it's like 99% of people do not take action. Yep. They'll read about it, or maybe they'll dream about it, and then they'll say, "Oh, that'd be awesome," or "That must be nice."
Yeah.
Well, you can do the exact same things if you apply yourself. It's not revolutionary. It's not rocket science. Yeah. Just do. That's it.
I'd love to walk you through a little bit of a framework that I've built for the BetterLife Tribe. So something we do inside the BetterLife Tribe is we do this. It's called REIOS. So it's Real Estate Investors Operating System. It's like how you operate growth and your, not just of your real estate, but of your entire life. And so there's 6 key components. I thought we'd maybe just fire all 6 at you one at a time and just kind of ask you some questions about it. Just one, so it hopefully helps you some. Also helps our listeners be able to kind of think through what does this look like. And of course, this is just a quick tease of what we do. Each of those 6 components has 5 to 10 frameworks inside that I teach, but we'll just hit a couple of them for simple. So the first category I call telling the truth, or tell the truth. Because the reality is most humans lie to themselves constantly about what they have, what they're doing. I'm just so busy, right? Are you really? Show me your calendar. Like, let's tell the truth about that, right? So that's actually one of the components of tell the truth, and we're not going to do it now, but it's like time audit. It's a 24-hour time audit. Every 30 minutes, you write down what you're doing.
Okay.
Because let's be honest about where your time is at and what you can spend your time on. Because once we're honest about where we're at, another component of it is a personal financial statement. So it's like you fill out where you're at financially. There's a budget. Like, what do you actually earn every month? What do you spend every month? That's all telling the truth, getting a ground level there. There's a few other components there I don't have to go through, but yeah, just that idea of the why is the last thing I'll bring up in the tell the truth, is be honest about why you want real estate. Because if it's just, and maybe it is just money for some people, but it's usually something deeper than that. I encourage people to go deeper. So I love that you brought up the family, that freedom, and get real clear on, like, this is the why. This is my truth. The truth today is I want financial freedom. And if you have a strong enough why, you'll get through the other 5 steps in the process.
Because I think you said something when it's tell the truth about time, because that's the number one thing that I hear all the time is I don't have time. I don't have time. And I say that all the time. Yeah. And I was like hit in the face actually 2 nights ago. Because I've been really busy, and I say I don't have the time. Yeah. But I also am reading a book series right now, and I've read 1,500 pages in the last last week. I was adding up time. I probably spent 40 hours in the last week reading this book. But I say I don't have time. I have time. I just am putting it towards different things. And so, and I think that's so important for everybody, is doing like a time audit. And everybody has time. I truly do believe that. It's just where your priority is at.
Right. Yeah, I think if 100% of people looked at their screen time
Yeah,
on their iPhone, they would figure out they have
They'd
time.
figure out they have time.
Yeah.
Dude, it's embarrassing when you look at your
It
screen
is
time.
embarrassing.
Yes.
I was telling we went for a walk this morning on the beach. I was like, I think I want to try something new. Just putting my phone away at 9 p.m. and just like not being on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I do 6 p.m. My phone goes into like screen time, like lockout mode, and it basically shuts off all social media, all like Chrome, like Safari, any internet search, anything at all that's entertainment in any way related.
Oh, wow.
6 p.m. it goes off. Now I could put the password in, and oftentimes I need it for something.
Okay.
But I make it turn off anyway, so it's a reminder, and it takes a few more steps. So that has been one of the most game-changing habits that I've introduced in the last year.
Yeah.
Was just 6 o'clock, phone goes off.
Yeah.
And but it's like an itch like the whole night. I'm like, oh, I gotta I can't. Oh, I gotta go do this. Like, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
And it's not I can, it's I won't. Right? Like, because there's something more important right now, which goes back to the why.
Right.
So
Yeah.
getting clear on that, super important. Another thing that we do in the Better Life tribe that I encourage people to look at is their whole life holistically. There's something called the Wheel of Life, or we call it the Better Life Wheel because I like branding things my own. But like you look at like the 10 areas of your life and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do I rank on here? Like how's my marriage? Like how would you rank your marriage on 1 to 10 right now?
I would say a 10.
I love that.
I know that's crazy to say,
Okay,
but no, really.
That's
I mean,
great,
it's
man.
like
That's
it's
amazing.
yeah, it's
And
good.
so if your marriage is a 10, let's do a few of these. We're gonna put your vulnerability. Marriage is a 10. Health and fitness.
Oof. This is not a 10. I'm going to say I'll give it like a 6.5.
Okay, that's all right. Let's go. You don't have kids. Are you happy with not having kids? Like in relation to children right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at?
In relation to children right now,
Yep.
at this point in my life, I'm totally happy.
Okay, so you're like a 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go career and business, which would be your music career.
I think there's probably room for some improvement here. So maybe 7.5.
Okay. I'll do just one more. Let's see.
Okay.
How about spirituality? How do you feel in your relationship to God, or to if you're not a God believer, then to just the universe? Like, how do you feel?
Yeah. Well, we don't go to church every Sunday, but I absolutely believe.
Okay.
So I'd probably say 7.5 again.
Awesome. So now what we're doing is I normally have like this, pie chart, and it has all the things, and you shade outward how you feel on each one on a scale of 1. So 10 would be like the whole pie is filled, like the whole slice of pie is filled out.
All right.
A 1 would be like the pie is not shaded at all, or the slice is not. So now you can look at this and get a real accurate picture of like, here's where I'm strong in life, and my wheel's kind of flat over here. Like, oh, it looks like this side like is really not doing well. But in yours, I'd probably look at this, and again, if we were doing this in, with the actual wheel, you'd see like your personal life, like with your marriage, the kids. What about friends and like friends community, that aspect of your life? How you feeling on that?
Yeah, pretty good. I think I probably am a bit of an introvert. Okay. Whenever I'm home, I just like to be home. I don't go out and socialize as much as I probably should have. But really good. We have a great support system, and all of our neighbors right there are all close. We're always over hanging out. So
that's cool.
So
let's scale 1 to 10. Where you
scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give it an 8.
Okay. So we're looking at this thing, and you're like, there's this part, like one edge of the circle is like your relationship with your spouse or your significant other, your kids, your family, and friends. So you could be like, oh, I'm really strong there. Like my wheel's pushing out really strong there. And you're like, oh, over here on the health side, oh, I'm a little bit less than where I want to be, right? So now we are being brutally honest, I like that phrase, brutally honest, with where you're at right now. Because most people tend to just like go set goals based on what they want, not based on what they need or based on what they want to become.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of like get brutally honest where you're at today and go from there. What do you think is what is your weakest area of the kind of the categories of life? And if I show you these categories,
yeah, let me see them. And I have a question for you while you're pulling that up.
Yeah,
because we've done this before. And one of the questions I always ask myself is it better in your mind, or do you think you can be 10s on everything?
I mean, I don't think anybody would be. I think you'd be arrogant if you were 10s on everything.
Yeah.
Like you'd be.
But is it better to be like 7s on everything, or 10s on 4 and 3s on 4 of them?
I think it is a continual. The wheel is always turning. Is how I put that. Always, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we actually do this every single quarter inside the BetterLife tribe. Is have everyone redo their wheel of life. I even have an actual like digital version of it now. People can like on the website do this digital wheel of life. I think it's if people want to try it out, I think it's available for anybody to use. abetterlife.com/wheel. Just abetterlife.com/wheel if you want to try the digital version of this. But yeah, it's always changing, and so. At any given moment, I might be like, hey, I'm feeling like I'm a 9 out of 10 on my marriage right now, or I'm a 10 out of 10. And then next quarter, I might be a 3.
Sure.
And that just happens because life gets insane. Because it's hard to do all of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, they say it's not work-life balance, it's work-life balancing. So it's not like you can't be perfect, but you can be striving for perfection or greatness.
Yeah.
So spirituality, I'd say 7. Money and finances, I would say like 5. I know we just don't budget anything. I just don't know. I don't know anything. So like I want to get better at that. That's actually one of my wife and I's goals is like to know how much money we're making and where's that money going. Where right now it's just like this continual cycle of money comes in, money goes out.
So I want to stop you there and address this. That's why this is so important. Because like what you just said there is we're at like a 5. So one of my wife and I's goal is 2. So if you were not brutally honest, right, about where we're at right now, we may never even think about setting a goal around something like that. Like you're just focused on setting money goals and your marriage is falling apart, or you're worried about setting marriage goals and your business you can't pay your bills and you're going to go broke because of that. So by continually being brutally honest and telling the truth about where you're at in life, you can then therefore set better goals. The budget thing is actually in here somewhere. I actually have a part of the REIOS is actually doing the budget, right here, monthly budget. So you can actually sit down. So if you want this, Cam, you are in the tribe. You can
I have it. I think. Well,
there you go.
No, I don't have this one.
This is the newest version. Yeah,
I can't wait till this comes out.
Yeah, this is coming out.
But same thing with career and business, where it's like I feel like everything's going well, but also at the same time, it's probably a 5 or a 6 because we've got Revel City Properties, home buyers, flips, Cathcart Capital, Deal Flow, like all of these that I still feel like I'm very involved in. And so that's another goal is to like figure out like how can I create some sort of system to be better with that. And so is there other ones on there? Or?
There are, but
so I need to do that again because it's fun doing that, and I think it's important to sit down and like really think through that.
I agree. Telling the truth, man. Telling the truth.
It's kind of like the reset that you had to do to get your mind right. I think it's important to kind of take a little bit of time and reflect.
Yeah. In fact, actually, the first section here is actually called "Tell the Truth." It's called Reflections and Gratitude. And I got this practice actually from The Gap and the Gain from Ben Hardy. Dr. Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan, the book The Gap and the Gain. And they talk about this practice where you say, over the past 10 years, I have what? Or you could say 10 years ago, I was where.
Okay.
And then over the past 3 years and over the past year. And you basically write down all your, like, where you've come. So instead of measuring from what you don't have, you begin by putting your mind into a state that measures from how, like, where you're at today from where you were. So, like, 10 years ago, where were you? How old are you today?
29.
Okay, so 10 years ago, you were 19.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? That
man, it was actually pretty good. I mean, I felt like I was in a good place at 19. I had a decent job.
Yep.
I was in school. I was rodeoing. I was singing. So I was doing all the things that I wanted to do. I was living at home with my parents. So, bills were non-existent essentially.
So what have you accomplished in that 10-year period that you didn't have then?
To sit here and list out everything would just be, a huge time suck. But I can confidently say I've done a lot of amazing things in my life, and I'm so fortunate that I've gotten to do that.
Yeah, and just went and toured Europe.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like stuff like that. I mean, I would have never imagined if you would have told me 10 years ago, you're going to be going to Europe to play country music, to play your songs for people in Europe. And I would have said, okay.
Sure.
And to look back at that kind of stuff is incredible.
What would your 10-year-old, what would your 19-year-old self say if they got a glimpse of the future of where you're at today? What would they say to you?
Oh, man. I don't know. That's a really good question. I should spend some time on that one.
I know that's a reflection
on the spot here. I don't know, man. I think maybe I would just maybe if I could go back and tell that 19-year-old kid something, it would just be to start now, whatever it may be. Just start now.
Yeah.
Whether it be reading a book or investing into a Roth IRA or whatever, just start right now. Just start as early as you can. But I mean, I don't know, man. I like I said, I'm gonna watch the sunset tonight.
Yeah, and think on
in Kihei and think on it a little bit.
Yeah, I really like that question. I would encourage everyone who's listening to this to think about that. Is what would your 10-year ago self? What would they say if they saw a glimpse of the future? Like, dang,
maybe just wow,
dang, wow, yeah, exactly. And sometimes that's like. Because in the moment, and this is why we do that. In the moment, sometimes, like right now, like you were saying earlier, Cam, like it's frustrating. It's like, oh, there's so many things wrong, and it's a mess, and this is not working. And then it's like we're living such an incredible life compared to what the person 10 years ago, like most of us. I mean, maybe your life's crap right now.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Because for me, it is like 10 years ago, like looking into my future and seeing where I'm at now, dude, I'm blown away. It's amazing. But there are people out there that their life is not that way, where they've went bankrupt, they've lost family members. What do you tell that person where it's like, 10 years ago, I thought I was going to be somewhere way different, and now...
I would argue that every single person is better in many regards, maybe not all regards, right? So let's say you had a bad bit, like you were wealthier and you had family members, and then somebody passed away and your business got lost. What else is better in your life? My guess is there's one of those 10 categories in your life. If you look at the 10 categories, maybe it's your health and fitness. Maybe you're better than you were back then. Like I eat a lot better today than I did 10 years ago. Like I was eating like garbage.
McDonald's every day.
McDonald's, not quite, but it was like there are aspects. So I would focus on that and say what area, because guaranteed there's something you are better at today. You're wiser. You understand more. You understand how maybe you understand love better because you lost somebody.
It's a great point.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
Thank
you understand things better. I like that.
Cool.
I think probably subconsciously we're all doing this wheel in real time.
All the time,
All the time. Yep. So that's kind of a good point.
And this just puts it on paper. And then ideally, every quarter you can revisit where you were and where you have been. That's something we're going to build software in a little bit better over time, where you can actually track over time where you're moving.
Okay.
Like you said earlier, it's like the happiness of pursuit. What are we pursuing? I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better dad. I want to be better in shape. I want to be better. But how do you know that if you don't know where you were?
Sure.
So having times of reflection and telling the truth just is so important. That's why I focus on that being step one.
Well, and what I love about this wheel, and is there somewhere where people can download it at? Or
It's abetterlife.com/wheel. They should be able to get it.
Because I think because like my wife and I, we did this. We do this quite a bit with BetterLife. But like for our marriage, we were at let's say 6, 7, and we started talking. And what was the biggest issue? And it was because we didn't get to spend time together. And we talked through like, why don't we get to spend time together? Because we work all day, and then it's kid time, and then once we put the kids down, we're cleaning the house, and then we go to sleep, and we wake up and we start over. And so we weren't going to spend a lot of time together. And so we were able to, which granted, I know not everybody's able to do this, but we were able to hire somebody to help us clean the house in the evenings. So when we put the kids down, when we were done with that, we were able to spend the rest of the night together. And so
cool,
what I love about it is like a lot of them are like, okay, for that one, not everybody can do that. I get that. I feel, but like with health and fitness, like it's a really easy thing to do. Like I just got to work out more, and I've got to eat healthier.
Yeah.
And so when you just take a realistic like look of where you're at, it's a really easy process to get better. So
agreed.
I love that.
Yeah, and you just have to prioritize it at that point. You know, it's like instead of this, I'm going to do this.
And when you have an accurate understanding of your time and priorities and the trade-offs, and you can now make better decisions. So let's move on to step 2. So step 1 is tell the truth. Step 2 I call defining your future self. Ironically, also pulled from a Ben Hardy book. He has a book called Be Your Future Self Now. So some of this methodology comes from that. I mean, he's just reiterating what a lot of other people have said too. But the idea of like the more familiar you are with where you're headed, the better chance you have of getting there, right? So it's the famous Alice in Wonderland Cheshire Cat conversation where she says, "Where do I go?" And he says, "Well, where are you trying to get to?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know." And he said, "Well, then it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter which way you go if you don't have a destination, because you're going to end up someplace. Like, but it does matter where we get to. So if we want to get very clear about where we're going, so now we can actually get directions on how to get there, which is a later step. So defining your future self, what does that look like for you in the future? What is financial freedom? Dollar amount, financial freedom. What do you think that looks like?
I don't know, man. Let me ask you, at what point do you decide I have enough?
Never. But I'm also absurdly ambitious. But I think there's levels to it. That's
Okay.
I like to call level 1, level 2, level 3 financial freedom. And I jokingly say level 1 is like you can fly anytime you want in a jet. You can just get on a plane and go fly across the world because you got financial freedom level 1. Level 2 is you can buy a jet, right?
Okay.
And level 3 is like you can buy the jets.
Sure.
So those are like the 3 levels, right?
All right.
So level 1 is just I can pay my bills. I don't have to work. Now I can get on a plane and fly around the country and travel all I want if I wanted to. So level 1 is simply, I look at it as double the amount. The way I look at it is double the amount that you would need to pay your your bills, like the actual like rent,
Gotcha.
you know, or mortgage, your health insurance, like the actual bills, not other expenses. If you can get double your bills, I'd call that financial freedom level.
Yeah,
so
I would have to agree with that.
Yeah, so it's usually around $10K a month for most people, give or take, right? Maybe 20 if you got a lot of family and kids or a big expensive area. Maybe 5 if you're by yourself or a small family, a small area.
Yeah, I think you should maybe kind of, if going back to these Dave Ramsey principles, you put your emergency fund, your 3 to 6 months, and then everything else, you're working on investments and you're just building that net worth. So if I had to quantify it, I'd probably say $100,000 in the bank and then another few million in assets, and they're just building wealth over time. And then once we decide, we want to cash out, then hopefully it will have appreciated so much money. So, I don't know. I feel like as I've grown older, it's like whenever people ask you what you want for Christmas, it's like, I don't need anything. Just give me some socks, And as I've gotten older and kind of developed this mindset of I'm living a prosperous life right now. I don't necessarily need that much, and if I can cover my needs, kind of like what you're saying, then it's all good.
So I love that. So then we can we talk about, let's say a certain year from now, let's say 5 years from now. Like, is that a good timeline for financial freedom?
Sure,
You say 5
absolutely,
years.
yeah.
So what would you need dollar amount per month if you could no longer sing anymore? Your voice gets shot. You can't sing. You have no more money coming in. Residuals or royalties, whatever you call it, on music dries up. What do you need? 10K a month?
Yeah, I'd probably say comfortably like 15, maybe.
Okay. All right. So $15,000 a month in 5 years. Does that feel good?
Yeah, and that's absolutely doable.
That's absolutely doable. It is. Especially, and I love that you have that attitude, because if you were like, oh, that's impossible, then it would be impossible. So now we've got the beginnings of a vision, of your 5-year vision. And so we talk a lot about that within the tribe, this idea of the 5-year future you. And I'm not going to go through all of it, because I actually have 3 different ones. There's 5-year future you, 5-year future real estate you, and 5-year future relationship.
Okay.
I have all 3. The 5-year future you is like, what do you do every day? What do you where's your happiness at? Like, what's that like? The 5-year future you real estate is more of how many units do you have. So if you were to say $15,000 in 5 years, that's doable. Do you want to get in single family houses? Do you want to buy multifamily? Like, what do you see as your future there? Like,
right now we're focusing on single family. I think that it's probably the easiest to get into. It's kind of where our experience is right now. I'm sure maybe ultimately we'll get into the commercial space or maybe the multifamily, but right now I think if we can just purchase as many single family homes as we can, provide homes for people that might not be able to afford purchasing, they can rent from us, and hopefully we can make a difference in their lives and they're making a difference in ours. So I would say, I think I wrote down in the show notes that we want to achieve like 10 to 12 single family homes within the next 5 years.
Okay.
So,
and would you pay those off? Because then we get to the number $15,000. If you needed $15,000 every month coming in, and you have 10 houses, that's $1,500 per month per house in cash flow, which is probably, it depends on what you're renting a house for and whatever.
Sure.
But it's probably higher than you're going to get out of a single family house, correct?
Yeah.
Like, especially if you have a mortgage on it.
Right.
So how do you get to $15,000 how do you get there? I'll just leave it at that.
And I can't play music.
Yeah,
right?
you can't play music.
Oh, wow.
Let's say you're not getting
okay. There. All right. Now that's a more interesting question. Maybe I need 20 houses instead of 10.
That might be the case. This is exactly why we do that, right? If you had 20 houses, and this is where, at some point, this is where people go, okay, houses isn't going to work. I'm going to have to get into something larger.
Sure.
I think you need 50 houses.
50 houses.
You need 50 houses.
If you're trying to hit $15,000 a month,
just in straight up passive cash flow. Okay.
I think you need 50 houses at least.
All right. Because you're probably looking at $300 in cash flow per unit, per house. But you could also do that exact same thing with one multifamily, right?
Sure.
You buy a 100-unit apartment building, you're probably making that. But that takes obviously a lot more time and money and experience to get there. But if you were saying, I'm going to stick with single-family houses, that actually, what it brings up is another piece of this. I've been teaching this for years. It's in a lot of my books, but we also do it in the tribe. It's called the crystal clear criteria. The crystal clear criteria simply says, it's like 6 components, and I'll read them to you here. It's number 1, what type of property do you buy? So, what type of property you want to buy? So you said single-family houses. So I can say it's SFR. In the future, you may eventually get into maybe multifamily. Does any type of multifamily stand out? Mobile home parks, apartment complexes, like self-storage, anything like that?
Well, self-storage sounds really intriguing because it's kind of, low maintenance type stuff. I think.
I agree. Yeah, I think storage is great.
Yeah, storage would be the one, probably the one I'm most excited about in that commercial space. You know.
I think self-storage, I mean, any of them work, right? So they all could work. I think storage is super interesting. I know some people that are taking like mom and pop storage facilities that are 20, 30, 40, 50, doors. Small little things, mom and pop, they're buying them, they're modernizing them, and then they're just making, a couple $1,000s a month in cash flow off of them. And they just buy a few of those and you got your $15,000 pretty easy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean you have to do that today, but it might be just worth noting like, oh yeah, I'm going to do single family now to get some reps in. And then I'm going to start, or you could just say, screw single family houses. I'm going all in right now on self storage. And if you believe you can, you can.
Yeah.
So just something to think about. So there's the property type, there's strategy.
Okay.
Already we know you want to do rentals, we maybe do some flips maybe in there.
Sure.
Then you go location. Where do you want to buy? Is it Texas or anywhere?
Yeah, probably close to home.
Okay.
Texas.
It's a great area to buy in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if it works there, why go
And
elsewhere?
you can go easily, you can drive there and check it out.
Yep. Condition wise, like what do you like fixer uppers? Or do you try to avoid those?
Yeah, we're doing kind of a fixer upper right now, so it doesn't necessarily scare me.
Okay.
So yeah, we can go with that.
Some fixer upper stuff, and then price range. Where do you want to buy in? What's kind of the price range look like?
Anywhere from 200 to 350. I think that it kind of gives you like you're figuring out what neighborhoods are good if they're priced. If they're in the 200s, it's likely a better neighborhood than something that's in the hundreds.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe that's where you start. As a real estate rookie, it's like, okay, well, these neighborhoods are all on the come up.
Yep.
So that's where I should focus my attention, and you could put a dollar amount on those.
Yeah, and you could also then really define if you want to get specific on location. Is like I buy in this zip code or this street.
Yeah,
like these streets, this area, this neighborhood, this school district, whatever.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. I mean, we're solely focusing on our neighborhood.
Yep.
Just because we see the value in it.
Yeah. Cool. And then last one here is profitability. Like we kind of talked about earlier. If you're getting $300 per house and you have 50 houses, that's $15,000 a month. $300 usually pretty standard for a house. That we want to go with that one.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So if you want $300 per month in what we call pure cash flow, which is a little different than what most people call cash flow. Pure cash flow is actual cash flow, not like fake, rent minus mortgage. Yeah. So if you're actually profiting $300 a month and you need 50 of them, now we've got it. Now this is a crystal clear criteria. When you're talking to somebody, an agent, and they say, "Well, what are you looking for?" You say, "I'm looking for deals." Like nobody cares about it. But you're like, "Oh, I'm looking for single family houses that are within a 10-mile radius of this specific spot that preferably need some work done to them." I can go as high as 350, but I really want to get something as low as 200. And I'm looking for something that can cash flow. I mean, ideally, I'm going to try to get $300 a month per unit. All of a sudden, now you're a very different person. Like when I'm talking to you. Right, that's so specific. Those 6 things: strategy, property type, location, condition, price range, and profitability. Cam, anything to add on that?
No, I think you and I are a lot alike because I'm a single family investor, and the clear buying criteria is the very first step for every single person. I think when they are networking with anybody, when they're talking with anybody, you need to have crystal clear criteria. Yeah. And what Brandon said is exactly true. When you're talking to an agent, when you're talking to a wholesaler, when you're talking to a neighbor, and you have that, then they're going to be looking for properties for you. If you just talk to your neighbor and like, yeah, I'm looking for anything that's a good deal, they're never gonna think of you again. Sure. But if you say, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath, brick ranch in this zip code that's priced between $200,000 and $300,000, preferably needs some work to it, then even just subconsciously, if they come across that, they're gonna think, hey, and especially because you got your name, they're gonna be like, Wynn Williams. Wynn Williams.
This is a Wynn Williams
looking
deal.
for this. So
that's cool. That's man, you're starting to sell me on the REIOS here.
I know, REIOS, this thing works, man. So we got this, now we got a very clear idea of what you want to buy next. Now we can move from this, again, the vision. We have a vision of where you want to get to, $15,000 a month in cash flow. No, you do not have to solve that today, how you're going to get there, right? A lot of it's, we just want to know about where we're headed. A lot of people get overwhelmed and like $15,000 a month. Oh my gosh, 50 houses. I only own 2. How am I going to get to 50 houses? You're like, you don't have to worry about that. That's 5 years. Yeah. Right? Like all we got to worry about is this year, really. So, but you want to base your this year goal on your 5-year vision, but it doesn't mean you're okay, 50 units in 5 years, so therefore that's 10 per year. My goal is 10 houses this year. Like that's probably unreasonable. You're working not a job, a full-time life. Buying 10 houses right off the bat might not be what you want to do, but that's okay. We can scale into it. you buy. I mean, what would be a goal for? I mean, let's move on to the next one. So we started with the idea of telling the truth. That's the first component. We move from there into a 5-year vision, and that includes everything from the future you, future real estate, your relationship, the crystal clear criteria. We do something called the ideal identity and your ideal week, but we'll skip through that right now, and we'll just go to the goal alignment. The third component is called goal alignment.
Okay.
This idea is like, okay, now we know where we're headed. We know future you. You've defined who that person is, or at least at a high level real estate wise. We know where you're headed. $15,000 a month. Real estate investor, and hopefully your music's cranking out $1 million a month too. But
hopefully.
But at least now we've got
right on your private jet.
Yeah, we need the private jet. So we're going to then back into a goal around that. So an annual goal.
Okay.
And we're going to back into a quarterly goal. And I even moved down to like weekly goals. We'll just say like annual. What do you want to buy this year? I mean, you got the one that you just closed on, so that's going to take some work.
Yeah, I've been talking to my wife, and I think a good goal is to buy 2. This was at 10, 10 properties, buy 2 a year. And there's also that strategy where I think David Green talks about this, is buying 1 door and then you buy a duplex.
Yeah.
And then you buy a quadplex.
I talk about that a lot too. Yeah.
So
just exponential growth.
Yeah, that
I
kind
love
of thing.
that model.
Yeah. So I think
this
finding those deals though is maybe a little bit more intimidating, right? Because that's kind of that barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Well, I can take out $200,000 in debt, but maybe I am not comfortable taking out $800,000 in debt. So how do you overcome that kind of fear, or maybe that hesitance whenever there's bigger dollar amounts involved?
It's a great question. You want to start it?
What?
You want to answer that one? You want me to? I can do it.
Go for it.
I'll start. And then
Brandon's a pro.
I'm a pro.
Brandon's done this more than I have.
I have a friend, Darren Sager, who says, don't be afraid of commas and zeros.
Okay.
Like real estate is math, whether you're buying a $100 million building or a $1 million building or a $100,000 building. It's all numbers, right? That said, there are mistakes that can be made on a $100 million building that you can't cover. Or if you make a mistake on a $100,000 property, it's like, well, I just got to go work the weekend and paint myself.
Sure.
Right? We've all been there where you're just like, well, I overshot my budgets. I guess I'm going to be working on it. So the way that kind of the answer to that question of like, how do I overcome that fear, is one is education and experience, right? I'm not afraid to drive a car because I've been driving a car for so long. I'm not going to be afraid to buy a $100 million apartment complex because I've bought in 5 of them. Not heaven, but that's the idea, right?
Right.
So that's where that idea of exponential growth. Let's say you bought 2 houses this year, and then next year you bought maybe 4 houses, and then it was like 8, and then maybe it was 16 houses, or maybe a 16-unit apartment building at that point. You've scaled up, and then 5 years from now you finish it out and you got your 50 units and you're financially free. So this year we just got to worry about the 2.
Right.
So that's not too scary. And once you have those, now if you got 2 more compared to the 2 you have, now you got 4 units.
Yeah.
Could you buy 4 next year? If you already had 4, it wouldn't be scary to buy 4 more, right?
Probably not.
Yeah, because you've already done it.
Yeah, get the reps in.
Yep, you're not doing anything you haven't already done. And then once you do that, let's say you buy a 4-plex next year. Let's say it's only 1 purchase.
Sure.
Right? Because now let's just say you shift into multifamily. You don't have to. You can be a single family guy like Cam. But all of a sudden now, either way, you've got 8 units. The year after that, you already own 8. Could you buy 8 more? Of course you could, because you've already done it. Like that's why that idea of like the doubling every year, I like that model. Yeah. Because you're never scared, because you're never buying more than what you already have under your management.
Yeah,
or
that makes a lot of
sense.
sense.
General idea. Overcome the fear that way anyway.
Love that.
What do you think? Overcoming fear.
Overcoming fear. I mean, I think one of the things that helped me a ton was finding great mentors and not being afraid of partnerships where somebody's done it before.
Sure.
As you're working your way
100%,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. So like if I were going to go try and buy a $100 million building, the first person I would call would be Brandon and say, hey, even if I found the deal and it was an incredible deal and everything worked, I'd be like, Brandon, can you partner on this with me just to walk me through the process?
Yeah. Right.
Because I've never done it before.
Yep.
And so I think partnerships is also a really, really great way to be able to scale and scale efficiently.
Yeah. That sounds like a great strategy. For sure.
But one thing I want to say about just like the goals, because I love this when you talk about like your future self and then the goals is, I heard this quote one time that it said, future you is just an exaggerated version of who you are today. And so many people, they have their 5-year vision of who they are, and it's nothing like them, and they're not doing things in their life to become that 5-year. So like for me, I remember when I first started real estate, I was working crazy hours, and in my head it was like, oh, I'm eventually going to be financially free, and then I'll get to spend more time with my kids. And our brains just don't work that way. Or hey, I'm an angry person because I'm super stressed out and I'm working a lot, but one day I'm gonna have a bunch of money and I'm not going to be angry anymore. I'm not going to be stressed out anymore, and it just doesn't happen like that. And so I love the thought that future you is just an exaggerated version of who you are today. And so if you don't like who you are today, you're not going to like future you.
Yeah.
And then that goes back to the habits, the daily actions.
Yeah.
Like, so what if you don't like who you are today, you're not going to like future you. So change it. So
Yeah.
change your direction.
And that leads into why I'm so I think it's so important to start with the idea of telling the truth and the vision, those two components, because most people skip those two and they go right to goals.
Sure.
But yeah, you're not going to change who you are. Like, you get the results of what you repeatedly do, and you get the results of who you are. And so, like, if you are, telling the truth about who your current problems, your current, whatever. Like, I lack self-discipline in life. Okay, so now I'm honest about that, and I'm truth about it. Now I can work on that right now diligently, because 5-year future me isn't going to be magically better unless I work on it. So
Right.
You're not just going
That's a great point.
to wake up one day and have a better marriage because you wanted that in future you.
Yeah.
Like, it takes consistent action in the right direction to get there.
yeah,
Right.
I call
So-
it identity-based goal setting. So you set goals around your identity or your future identity. So like, I want to be a good father to my kids that's present, and I have a whole identity statement around it. So it's like, now I can set goals around that because I'm honest of where I am and where I'm going, and I have an identity statement, and I can build goals around that. So that's a big part of what we're doing here as well on this little podcast. So we're trying to get to where you want to be, and you kind of laid out a lot of that. You want kids eventually someday. You want your wife to have the freedom to not work if she doesn't want to, and you not work if you don't want to, and great. So we set these goals. So this year, you said if you bought 2 more this year, that'd be great. You'd be at 4 by the end of the year. What does that mean for the next quarter? Now we were recording this on, what's the date today? I don't know.
February 29th.
Oh, it's leap year. It's leap
It
day.
is leap day, yeah. Today is leap day. We're recording
So
this.
you really actually have 4 years to get this done, technically. That's
That's what we're saying here. So if we're recording this here end of February, this probably comes out, I don't know, a couple months after that. But what do you got to get done by, not Q1, but let's say end of Q2? What would feel really good? January, February, March, April, May, end of June.
End of June.
Do you have to buy one or just finish the ones you're working on? Or
Well, the goal is to have this existing one done that we just purchased, and we have a tenant placed, or we're flipping it. Summertime is a great time to get tenants in place or maybe sell. So that would be the goal. End of June, we're done.
Love it.
So then we move on simultaneously while we're doing this renovation. I'm looking at other deals, and I'm analyzing. Okay, is this going to work? And then if I've done my job well, then by the time we get to the end of June, we're ready to pull the trigger on the next
another
one.
one under. So maybe we say another goal. One would be current deal is done with whatever that looks like, either sold or rented. And then you have another one under contract. Would that be too aggressive by end of June? Or?
I would say at least making offers.
Okay.
In the month of July, making offers. So
How many offers do you want to make in the month of, or in Q2 in general? How many offers do you want to make? Like, do you think that would maybe land you a deal, or just make you feel like you're making the right steps?
I don't know. Maybe like 5 offers on stuff that I think is really, really
So
good.
5 solid offers.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me this though. In this, so like I feel like if you set a unit number, like so if you said, "Hey, I want to have a house under contract by the end of June," then that turns into then you can just backtrack that to, "Hey, I need to make X amount of offers," versus I want to just throw out X amount of offers. Like what?
Because it could be garbage offers.
Exactly.
But it also could be a garbage deal. You're right. Like, I'm going to get a house under contract. Well, anybody can get a house under contract.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
You can go throw out.
You can go throw out a full price offer on a MLS house and get it under contract. Doesn't mean you're going to buy it or it's going to make sense. I think that's the danger of goals in general, is if you get too dogmatic or legalistic about it. It's not just about the goal. So I am actually a big fan of defining the characteristics of that. It's like I always do a little asterisk on my goals. So it's like I have like one of my goals this quarter was 75 perfect eating days. And then I put a little asterisk, and then I put 5 bullet points on what a perfect eating day looks like.
Okay. Yeah.
So I recorded my food. I didn't have any added sugar. I had 180 grams of protein. Like I have this list. So now I've qualified and quantified what the actual goal looks like. So it could be like, hey, offers made, 5 offers made, that's fine. 5 offers made, and then you quantify it with, it's got to be, like you said, solid. I like that you,
Sure.
Yeah, I like that you said a solid offer, and you know what that
Right.
means. But what we can define, I don't want to do it now, but we can define exactly what solid offer means. Probably it could make $300 a month in cash flow. And it fits my crystal clear criteria.
Yeah.
Right. Again, goes back to why the crystal clear criteria is good.
Yeah.
Because I made a goal last year, this was 2 years ago now, of losing 12 pounds in January, and I didn't up until like the 28th, and then I just starved myself. I didn't eat it. I didn't, and then I gained it all back on February 1st. But like,
which I don't hate, but it's also why I like progress goals more than outcome goals sometimes. Right? So progress goal is I'm going to eat healthy, this many times.
Yeah.
Versus a manipulatable goal that you can. I did that one time too. I bet somebody that it was like $100 I was going to give it to Hillary Clinton if I didn't lose like 20 pounds. Yeah, and it was like I was at like 16 pounds, and I was like, I'm not going to give Hillary money, so I just starved myself for 3 days. Yeah, and I did it. I hit the goal, but yeah, because
you don't hate that though. You don't think that's a.
I don't hate it because it teaches you something. It teaches you that okay, next quarter I got to do a better job of either setting goals or following the process to get there because I don't like starving myself for 3 days.
Yeah.
It's almost more of a punishment than anything.
Yeah.
So I don't hate that. So yeah, you could do the offer. And this is something we talk a lot about when I'm teaching goal setting is you can set a goal as an outcome goal. Like I make 5 offers. You can set it as a process goal. Like I make 2 offers per week in the month of whatever. Now, and a lot of times I'll do something like I make 5 offers, and for every offer I don't make, I give $100 to Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
Right? So like you can do a conditional process or conditional
He lives in
outcome
Texas
goal.
too, so that's
Yeah. So, anyways, but I like the idea. If you want to just for now, for simplicity, stick with the idea of I want to make 5 offers in Q2.
Yeah.
It's like that's a reasonable goal, right?
Yeah.
I think and you want to have your current deal done. So you've got 2 real estate goals that you're going to strive for. Let's go one more goal. You earlier when we did your Wheel of Life, the lowest score you gave me was on health and fitness. So what's a goal for Q2 that you feel like you could hit, whether it's an outcome or a process goal?
Yeah, I think maybe just get active every day.
Okay. What does that look like?
Let's
drill down on
it could
what does that
either
mean?
go for a run or go to the gym.
Okay, how many minutes?
At least an hour.
Okay, so 1 hour. Is it 7 days a week? Is it 5 days a week? Like,
I think if you're going to the gym maybe 3 or 4 days a week, you're already doing better than
I agree.
like 98% of
So is it
Americans,
Is it 3 or 4?
Well, since you're challenging me, I think I'll say 4.
Okay, love it. So 4 days per week. There are 13 weeks in a quarter.
All right.
So 13 is 26 is 52. Am I doing that math right?
52, yeah.
That's 52 divided by 4 would be 13? 26? Yeah, 52.
Yeah.
So 52. So what I did is I took it from a process goal of 4 a week.
Okay.
And I moved it up to, if we want to make it a goal, like one of your 3 goals, then we're going to say 52. Let's say 52 times at the gym in Q2. That sounds like a reasonable number.
Yeah.
But if let's say halfway through the quarter, you're like, oh shoot, I'm not going to hit my 52. Even if I went every day, I'm not going to hit 52. I guess I better just go eat Twinkies and not go at all, right? That's what we tend to do.
Yeah.
Is like, oh, I'm not going to hit the goal. I might as well throw it away. So that's why I would rather turn that one to 52 gym, or this is a conditional goal, or I will. What's a negative thing for every one you miss in Q2?
Oh gosh.
Could be something silly like no phone for a whole day. Or
Yeah.
it could be something I got.
That's actually kind of a positive in my opinion.
Yeah, I know. Actually, kind of is.
Donate $100.
Yeah.
For
Donate
every day that you miss.
$100 to Hillary Clinton.
Okay, $100 to Hillary Clinton
For every.
for every one gym. So we're gonna add it up at the end of the quarter and say
Okay.
how many did you get? 52. And if for every one short, your $100 goes to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So the goal isn't necessarily 52. It's 52, or I pay $100 to Hillary Clinton.
And we're doing that right
was gonna
now.
say.
Brandon and I, we're
are.
in a
Yeah, we're in a
challenge where for
challenge.
every
okay.
week that you don't hit your goals, you have to pay in $100.
Yeah, it's a fitness challenge with a bunch of buddies.
Okay.
And I've paid in a lot of $100 because I'm just not getting my steps in. Neither are
Yeah.
you. Both
Well,
Cam
it's
and I-
man, it's so
fucking
easy
about
just to make excuses and
so
not do
easy.
it. I mean, 52 days out of 90,
I know. Yeah, it's totally doable.
it's doable.
Yep.
Even if you're not going to the gym, even
Yeah.
if you just go for a walk.
Yep. Yeah, you did something.
Or go
And
for a run.
And this is where we want to get really specific too. Is 52? How do we want to write that goal? Is it 52 gym days? So if that one kind of walks.
What if
So
it's 52 hour workouts?
52
Yeah, I like that.
1 hour?
So it can be a walk, it can
Workout.
be a
Yeah,
run,
then you
go
don't
play
have to.
And then-
then you
basketball.
go to the gym.
So it could be the gym or it could be a walk. And
Sure.
do you want to define walk? Is walk enough? I mean, it might be. I'm not pushing you down on it.
I don't know. Probably a run is better.
Yeah, a run would be better. Is there? Yeah. So that's where I love to get real specific when
Yeah.
I'm helping people with their goals. Is like because I have been there. I'll say things like 52 workouts, and I'm like, well, I went for a walk. That counts. And then it's like, well, I mean, I stood up for a while. Like that counts, right?
Stood
Like
up. I talked on the phone.
I talked on the
and
phone.
Walked
That
in
worked.
circles.
Yeah, my mouth was working out.
Yeah.
My jaw was working. So it's easy to justify things. So that's where I love the definition of the goal. What exactly does this goal
Sure.
actually mean? I'm gonna write that down. So you're saying an hour of some kind of physical work, and that
Yeah.
could be a walk. I'm not saying you shouldn't. Walks are great, right? So is that good? You want to do a walk?
Let's do run.
Run. Okay.
We need to apply
and
ourselves.
So how can we what can we say? So there's gym, there's run, but walk doesn't count. So what word do we want to use to qualify something? Like where your heart rate, I mean, you don't have to track your heart rate per se, but like it's an aggressive workout of some kind. Is that a good word to define, or how would you define
52 workouts. I was going to say sweaty workout.
Yeah, sweaty.
I was going to say,
workout.
but
I don't hate
in
that.
Texas, you sweat when you walk outside.
Exactly.
So
Well, one of the ways that I've heard described is where you're working out to the point where you can't have a conversation. Does that make
Okay.
sense? Where it's like,
Sure. But at a gym, I can have a conversation the whole time.
yeah,
right?
that's true.
But so you could do gym or unconversatable
Yeah.
workout. Right? So however you want to write that, I mean, I'll let
Sure.
you figure that out. But now we've got 3 goals for the quarter, right? We want to get your current deal finished. We want to get offers made. I don't like having more than 3 goals. So get your deal done, offers made on 5 properties in the quarter, and you're going to do 52 workouts. That sounds pretty cool.
Doable.
There's one thing that I put into this thing. I'll show you, even though people that are listening to the podcast won't be able to see it, and even on YouTube, I don't think they'll be able to see it. But I made this because I thought it'd be super helpful. It's super simple. Anybody can actually do this. So for what it's worth, if you can see it, oh, that got weird. The idea is it's simply it's simply a chart which has on the left, it's like, think of a graph, right? So on the bottom of the graph, there's numbers 1 through 13, which is 13 weeks in a quarter. And on the side, on the left side, it's quantity of whatever the thing is. So you want to hit 52. And the quantity doesn't have a number. So 52 is your goal. 52 workouts up here. That means this is 52. Down here is 0. So for Q2, you have done 0 workouts so far because Q2 hasn't started yet for you. But here's where 0 is. Here's 52. This is the line that you need to hit. So that's why I like doing this. Is like now, in other words, so week 1, you're going to write down, when you come on this page, and you're going to say, did I work out 3 times? So if this is 52 up here, that means this is probably roughly 20, 25 right here. This is probably somewhere around 12. You could maybe just go 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's actually really just like each of these is 10. So you worked out twice, you're probably right about here. And you could just chart your graph. You can see if you're higher, above the line, or below the line the whole time. And so anyway, it's just a way of knowing. Otherwise, because what I'm trying to get at here is you don't want to get to the end of the quarter and then go add up all your 52 workouts and realize that you only did 48.
Sure.
You're like, oh man, why am I not doing this? This applies in business. We do this every single week at Open Door Capital. We do it every week at BetterLife. As we pull out everybody pulls out their graph and shows, are they ahead or are they behind? Are they winning or are they losing according to whatever number that they had set for themselves, whatever KPI they're setting? And so you can do that for your fitness, you can do it for your tracking, whatever. So that's just my encouragement to people is like track to make sure you know, are you ahead or behind on your numbers? So it's literally just a graph. People can, go to abetterlife.com/graph, and I'm going to make my team throw it there. You guys can just go see what I'm talking about there. So, all right, moving on a little bit. So we've now got quarterly goals. If you get if you get 5 offers made, you finish your project, that's a good quarter. And you worked out 52 times. Like that's a great quarter, right?
Right.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, so now we're going to back into one more. Let me pull up my little list here. So the next one I call the ultimate life hack, and hack being an acronym, HACK, and that stands for habits, actions, constraints, and KPIs. So what I like to encourage people to do is it's not enough to just say, I'm going to make 5 offers. How do we quantify that and track it on a regular basis? Are you making offers or not? Now, you might wait you might wait 2 months to actually start making your offers and make all 5 in June. That's fine. But we still want to define what are the habits that you want to do every single week. What are like the constraints, things that you're not going to do? You already mentioned maybe a phone.
Right.
So let's just brainstorm a couple. We don't have to do all of them right now. But what is something that in Q2, what is an action that you can regularly do that would help you accomplish that first goal? Let's go the first goal of getting that project done. What's something every week that you have to do? Multiple times a week or at least once a week you have to do to get that thing moving?
I think you just got to revisit your rehab spreadsheet. Like I went through earlier on the plane ride over here. I was going through and saying, okay, these 2 weeks I'm going to focus on demo and framing, and then the next 2 weeks I'm going to focus on plumbing and electrical or whatever it may be, and you just lay all that out so that you're tracking kind of like what you're doing with your graph. You get in there and you track and make sure that by the end of this 2-week cycle you've accomplished these things.
So
great. And like you were talking about, maybe not budgeting. Money comes in, money goes out. I'm kind of the same way as you, but I do track, where our overall finances are. Spreadsheets are my friend for someone who's not a spreadsheet guy. But we just put where our cash is, what our liabilities are, our properties, and at the very end is a net worth number.
Yep.
And if we can continue to work at that, then maybe they're not specific goals like we're talking about here, which is the beauty of this. I mean, this is really valuable. But I think spreadsheets in this case are your friend.
I agree. Yeah.
You could just sit there and like you said, track your timeline and what it is that you need to get done. So
there's something called a Gantt chart. I've never used them real heavily, but people really like. Have you ever used a Gantt chart? It's like a project management tool that basically says, hey, if this is where we want to get to, over here is X, and we're right here at Y. We want to get from Y to X. Here's our timeline, right? So what does X looks like? Let's say it's 6 weeks to finish the project. What the Gantt chart does is it does these like bars of how long each part of the project is going to take. So you'd say like this is demo, and it goes from week 1 and 2. But then because at the same time you're demoing, you can also be picking out supplies. So the supplies is a 1 week, and it's overlapping demo, and so you just have all these little lines that are just for each part of the project. Just something for people to consider if you really want to manage a project well. Gantt charts are awesome for that. We use them at Bigger Pockets a lot for like developer projects. But so you just get this little and I know people probably can't see it, but you get this little bunch of lines, and by the end of the project, every single one of the tasks has been finished.
Yeah.
And you can also then apply who's going to be responsible for each one, and then you can see are you ahead or behind. So that's called a Gantt. It's GAANT.
Okay.
So just something to consider for project management.
Yeah. I think in terms of the habit that you have to get into, you have to be focused and you have to look at that.
Yeah.
Probably every single day.
I agree. So 7 days a week, you want to review your rehab.
Yeah.
For at least how many minutes? You don't have to track it, but
15 or 20 minutes at the very least.
So if you
making phone calls and scheduling whatever you need.
So you worked on your rehab somehow 15 minutes every day. 7 days a week, 5 days a week. What do you think? What's reasonable there?
Well, probably 5 for me.
Okay. So 5 days a week, you're working on your rehab for at least 15 minutes.
Okay.
Reviewing numbers, making phone calls, whatever. If you did that for the next 13 weeks, and 5 days a week times 13, it's a big number, whatever that is. That's how many, would you finish your rehab on time?
Probably not.
So what else does it take? What else you got to do?
Well, 15 minutes just looking at the spreadsheet.
Okay, 15 minutes just spreadsheet. Okay. So is there another habit in there that we want to check for this one, or is that good enough for this one to get it done in time?
That's a good question. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of the work myself.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to spend considerable amount of time actually in the property doing it. So, I mean...
How about number of hours per week you want to dedicate?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be probably 12 to 15 hours just on that alone. Just being in the property working on it.
Is it 12 or 15?
I'm going to say 15.
Okay, so 15 hours per week. We're going to track work in the property. Does that sound reasonable? If you do that,
Definitely.
and you're reviewing your spreadsheet every single 5 days a week. Does that get you the goal?
I think it probably does.
I think you're probably right. So then we move to the second goal of saying, I want to get some properties under contract. What does that look like? Now, right now, you're not making offers. You're going to wait a little bit, right? Is there anything that we should be doing right now to get leads coming in or build a relationship with agents or going to meetups, anything like that?
Yeah, you could probably just start looking at Zillow and seeing some of that stuff. I do that all the time. I'll just be laying in bed and pull up Zillow or Biz by Sell and look for a laundromat or something.
How many days a week should you be looking for deals for at least 15 minutes? What do you think?
I'd probably say another 5 days a week.
Good. 5 days a week. Did you look at Zillow today or some sort of lead gen?
Not yet.
For that.
Not
Okay,
yet.
that's cool. That's cool. Well, that's why we're tracking this, right? And then let's skip down because I don't want to do this all day. Let's skip down to the health one. The simplest thing is you said you're going to work out 52 times, so here we go. Did you work out today?
Yeah.
That's a habit, right? Did you work out? And of course, we've already quantified what that means. And so we have to do it 4 days a week. Was that the goal?
Yep.
So 4 days a week, we want to do their goals. So now that's only 4 habits. There was review your spreadsheet. You're working 15 hours a week in your property. You're looking at properties on Zillow or some website, and you're working out. In the BetterLife tribe, and there's a million habit trackers out there. You don't have to be a tribe member to do this, but you can track. We track it on this thing called the action tracker, and the action tracker looks like this. Again, for those who are kind of seeing it on YouTube right now, it's got spots. You write your goal number 1, goal number 2, and goal number 3, and then down below you can put 9 different habits. So then we can simply say, like right here, one of your habits was to work. Oops, you want to work in the property.
Oh, no.
Come on. No, it's there. It's there. There it is.
It's where, all right.
So work in the rehab. And how many times we said you're going to do that for a total of
5 days a week.
15
But
hours.
it's 15 hours total,
15
right?
hours total.
So the target is 15 hours.
Okay.
And so then every day you can just all it takes is 1 minute in the morning. Yesterday, how many minutes did you spend in your rehab?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you were here, so it would be like 0. Yesterday we're recording this on a Wednesday. Is today Wednesday? Thursday. Today's Thursday. So yesterday you would be 0. Right? Let's say today you spent 7 hours there, and then Friday you spent 2 hours there, and Saturday you spent 6 hours there.
Mm-hmm.
We add up in the week, you're at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, what was that, 15? Hey, 15 out of 15, you did it. And so we do that for 9 different habits, and we don't have to go through all 9 right
Okay.
now. If you did that, like now we have a goal for the week, or target for the week, and then we have a total. What this does, which I really like about this methodology, by the way, is it allows you to then gamify the habits, which give you the goal for the quarter, which gives you the goal for the year, which gives you the vision that you want 5 years from now. And we get a score. I'm a video game guy, I guess you could say. When I was a kid, I love video games. So it's like at the end of the day, you have all these scores. Maybe you're a 6 out of 7 on this habit. You're a 4 out of 4 on this one. You're a 1 out of 7 on this one, whatever that is. And you add them all up and you're like, oh, at the end of the week, I was a 20 out of 40. Oh, I only had a 50% score this week. Mm-hmm. And so now we can see when people say like, oh, I'm not making any progress. It's like, show me your habit tracker. Like, show me your actions. Are you actually doing? And this literally takes a minute every morning to do. And if you follow those steps that you laid out and they line up to your quarterly goal, would you hit your quarterly? If your score was 100%, would you hit your quarterly goal?
Yes.
Almost for sure. If you hit your quarterly goal every single quarter, you're going to hit your annual goal?
Yes.
Of course. If you hit your annual goal every single year for 5 years, you're going to be financially free in 5 years.
Probably.
Yeah.
We just
Done.
paid you $150,000. Amazing.
That's the idea though of everything that when I'm walking people through and coaching people through the idea of what does it take to have success? It really everything comes down to the things you do on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. But most people there's a disconnect between what I want and then what I do. And so the whole goal is of what I teach today and what I encourage people to think through is how do we bridge the gap between what I want and like someday, how do I define what that is and then really nail down what do I have to do today? And if it's all in alignment, that's the goal, alignment, there's almost no chance you're not going to do it. Now, the last 2 components of REOS, I'll just throw it out there so people are aware of it. Once you have the habits down and you're tracking them every single week, we still fall off we fall off all the time. Mm-hmm. So what works for Cam and I and most people is having some level of accountability, right? So if you're in a group, whether it's you hire a coach, whether you have a buddy that you meet with every week, whatever, there's so many studies have been done that just show when you have accountability with somebody, the chance of you actually executing is significantly higher. You don't fall off the train when you have somebody on the train with you.
Right.
You might have bad weeks and you might be slower, but accountability dramatically improves your chance. So that's why I call it radical accountability. It's somebody who's just not afraid to call you out.
When we wanted to get into real estate, we signed up for a local like St. Louis mastermind. It was $1,000 a month. So there was accountability in that. And then also the local mastermind, we all kept each other accountable. And so we had 2 levels. Really, the $1,000 a month was more accountable to my wife because I knew that if I was spending that and it wasn't like doing, but it had 2 levels of accountability there. One, there was a monetary commitment to it, which is just like hiring a trainer at a personal gym or hiring a coach for anything. And then having a group of people that also held you accountable. But so huge. Accountability is one of the probably number 1 indicators of success. Like if you have like true friends that are holding you accountable. Yeah,
100% agreed. Do you have an accountability group yet that you meet with? Anybody, any pod or anything like that yet?
Not necessarily, but sounds like I need to join.
Sounds like you need to get a pod. No, I mean, you literally like, I hope people don't think this is just a giant advertisement for the tribe, though. You should because it's all for charity. All the profits go to charity anyway. But having just somebody to hold you accountable. And here's my encouragement for accountability pods. I've been in probably 10 of them over the last 15 years. Like I'm a big fan of them. And I think it's one of the reasons I've been fairly successful in most of the things I do. But I've been in a lot of garbage ones and I've been in a few that have been very good. The ones that have been very good, they are strict. There's usually just an a-hole. It's the best way to say it. Like somebody who's just like, guys, we're not following the agenda. And that's the best person to have in a group. You need somebody to hold you to it because otherwise you become friends chatting. And when you become friends chatting, everything falls apart and you're not holding each other accountable.
Sure.
Accountability is about following a process. So in fact, and I'll even share what our process is in the BetterLife tribe in case you want to mimic it. It's like you You meet every week for 1 hour. It's a 1 hour time. You show up on time and you meet on time. And then there's an agenda. And the agenda is it starts with, we call it an intention question, but it's just a way to get everyone kind of focused. Granted, we actually make people tell a dad joke first, but you start with some kind of joke, but you answer this question, but the real key is these 6 questions. I'm going to actually read the 6 questions because I think they're really powerful. Number 1, we do this every single week, but I don't want to say the words wrong because they're really good. Number 1, last week I committed to blank. So every person has to start by saying, going on the circle, and it only takes 5 minutes. You just go, last week I committed to, and it's based on what you talked about last week, but last week I committed to making 5 offers. Okay. Number 2, my top 3 goals for the quarter. So I want to restate my goals so my pod knows what they are, and I'm reminded what they are. I'm going to make 5 offers this quarter. I'm going to finish my rehab, and I'm going to go to the gym 52 times. Great. My score last week, you pull up your score because every day it's like 30 seconds. Did I do it? Did I not do it? My score was 73%, which was actually the highest score I've had in three months. And everyone's like, yay, good for you. Number 4, what habits or actions did I do great with? So if I look at my habit tracker, where was I struggling this week? I said I was going to go to the gym 4 times this week. I only went twice. So what did I do great with and what did I struggle with? So I went to the gym only twice. I struggled with that one, but I did great with the date with my wife. I went on 2 and I said I was only going to go on 1. Great. And then you pause, and this is so important. You pause for questions, not for help, not for advice, but for questions. And so your pod then has just a quick minute or 2 to say, like, well, why? Because you just said what you struggled with. Why didn't you get to the gym last week? And so let me ask you, why didn't you get to the gym last week, Wynn?
Because I'm lazy.
Oh, why were you lazy last week? What were you doing instead?
Well, we just got back from Europe, so still recovering from jet lag, and we had literally just closed on the property when we got back. So I don't have an excuse.
Well, yeah. So but
that's the whole point, right?
That's the point. And I'd say, well, do you really believe that you had no time? And that answer might be yes. Or do you think that you just wasted time? What do you think?
Waste of time.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So you wasted some time. What are you going to do this week to make sure that doesn't happen again? What days are you going to go to the gym this week?
Well, while I'm here, I'm walking on the beach.
Okay.
So I'm not doing the.
Does that count? Walking on the beach?
Well, it doesn't count. So I guess I need to do a better job.
Okay. What do
you work out on vacation?
And you might not. You might say I don't want to work on vacation, and then I say why not? And you're like, because that's not what I want to do. And the question, this is why this is so important, everybody.
Sure.
Is asking questions. If I were to just go, listen, Wynn, let me tell you what to do. So you're going to go to the gym at the hotel, and you're not going to listen to me. Like, you don't need my advice. You have every answer in your head already. And I don't know your life. I don't know your values, your methods, whatever. It's all I can do. We literally don't allow advice within a pod meeting. If they want to call somebody later and get some advice, fine. But in a pod meeting, it's only questions, and I'm such a big fan of this because I'm like, do you? And it's not like a leading question, like, do you think maybe you should go to the gym this afternoon? Like, that doesn't count. That's a stupid question. But I'm like, well, what do you want to do on vacation? Do you want to work out or not? Like, honest question. Do you want to work out while you're on vacation?
No, I don't.
Okay, great. And if that's your choice, and it's not Q2 anyway for you, so it doesn't really matter for tracking. But great. Now I don't have to spend time on that. But if I just gave my opinion of how I work out on vacation, which I don't work out either usually, it's not going to help you. You're not going to do it because it doesn't affect your insights. So questions only. So you're pausing for questions. And the last question, number 6, what are you going to commit to this week then? And it might not be the workout thing, but is there anything you want to commit to this week? And you're on vacation again. It's weird, but let's pretend you weren't on vacation. Let's pretend
if I wasn't on vacation, I'd be at least going for a run in our neighborhood.
Okay.
The weather's great right now, so.
When I say radical accountability, this is where I love, the radical part goes, if I was in your pod, I would say, all right, I love that, man. Do me a favor and text me later. Let me know when you go on that run. I'd love to know. And then I'm going to set a reminder right now on my phone that if I don't hear from you by 10 o'clock tonight, I'm going to call you and wake you up, and you're going to go for a run at 10 o'clock. How's that sound?
It sounds
Productive.
productive.
All right. So hopefully you go for a run so I don't have to wake you up at 10 o'clock, but I'm setting an alarm right now on my phone to call you at 10 o'clock if you don't text me first. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So that's radical accountability.
Yeah.
It's not just like friends talking like, okay, good job. It's like, I'm going to make sure you're living to the standard that you set for your life. You said you're going to go run today. I didn't make that rule.
Yeah.
So I'm going to radically hold you accountable to that. Now, so because radical accountability, it doesn't it doesn't let you slack. It says like,
Sure.
I'm here, like we are the Spartan wall, you know, like we're like, you know, like on 300, it's like that wall is solid because each person's standing up for the person next to them on the right and the left. And so that's radical. That's the difference between accountability and radical accountability.
Yeah.
Is radical accountability says, I am going to work to make sure that you don't fail. And so I'm a big fan of that. And the last component of REIOS is just relentless improvement. So how do you improve continually? So and you can set habits around that. Like I'm going to improve continually by I'm going to sign up for a course. That'd be like an action. Or I'm going to sign up for Cam's Deal Flow, which we never asked the question about this week's show sponsor. By the way, let's do that real quick.
Okay.
Every episode of the show, we have a sponsor, and we give away 100% of the money from that sponsor to a charity of the guest choosing.
Okay.
So where should we send the money from today's episode?
My dad's a veteran, and veterans have always held a special place in my heart, so I'm going to go with the USO.
All right, the USO. Good choice. And today's sponsor, speaking of Cam's course, is Deal Flow.
Deal Flow.
All right. Tell us about Deal Flow real quick. You got 12 seconds.
12
Go.
seconds.
Okay.
Deal Flow is going to teach you how to buy a lot of real estate. No, deal. So Deal Flow, the whole reason that we set it up was because there's a lot of people out there that need to make active income to be able to invest in real estate. And they don't necessarily want to do that through their W-2 jobs, or their W-2 jobs isn't providing them enough time to do that. And so for me, the number one thing to be able to become an active real estate investor is finding deals or deal flow. And so we've set up this program that teaches people how to find deals. And we spend a lot of time talking about how do you find deals, whether that's networking with agents, with wholesalers, whether that's direct to seller marketing, direct mail, cold calling, commercials, all of that good stuff. And then obviously once you have those deals coming in, that's like at the top of the funnel, then it's analyzing those deals. How do you analyze those deals? How do you negotiate those deals? And then how do you exit those deals? Whether it's a flip, it's a wholesale, it's a wholetailer, it's a rental. So we basically, take you from A to Z in real estate investing. And it's for people that honestly want to build a active income stream. I don't want to tell anybody that we're going to teach you how to build passive income, because you can, but
you're out there hunting for deals.
Yeah, we're out there working.
You're building
hard.
a business.
Building a business. So
Well, Deal Flow is great. I love it. And people, if they want to get just a teaser of what it's like, we actually put together a video series called The Four Horsemen. I don't really know why it's called that way, other than there's 4 videos about how to build that out yourself. And it's totally free. There's no commitment to joining Deal Flow if you watch the videos, but I think you'll like it. You can get that at dealflowrealestate.com, right?
Yep, dealflowrealestate.com. Check it out. It's
yeah.
great videos. So.
All right. So that said, based on, I thought of that because I realized that might be an action you want to take, is for continual education or ongoing education, ongoing what I call continual improvement or relentless improvement. Is I'm going to never stop improving. So maybe that's a course. Maybe you're in the BetterLife tribe and you have access to a bunch of the replays or the weekly financial freedom calls. Maybe I'm going to go to a real estate meetup every single week. I'm going to review I'm going to stick with this long enough and review what's working, what's not within my goals and habits. Either way, if you continue, let's go backwards and sum up this whole episode, and then we'll move into the final kind of closing sections here. Let's go backwards from the 6 steps. If you are continually getting better all the time by educating yourself through podcasts, courses, books, and you were diligent about improving all the time, and you had accountability, not just normal accountability, but like radical accountability, and people holding you to the version of yourself that you wanted to be, and you were tracking your habits that were lined up to the goals that you set for your quarter, which were lined up to the goals for your life, or your annual, which were lined up to the goals for your vision, and your vision was based on who you want to be as a person and what you want your future life to look like. And you were honest about yourself the entire time, and you had just transparency, and you were telling the truth. Is there any chance you would not hit financial freedom in 5 years?
You'd have a really good shot.
You'd have a really good shot. And that's the whole idea of we're not just winging it. We're not just going after something because we want to, because it's a hobby. It's and you can apply this intensity, and it's fairly intense, but it's a few minutes a week. But it's a fairly intense process. You can apply it to anything. You can apply it to music. You can apply it to fitness, to your relationships, anything at all. It works. It doesn't guarantee it, but it's about the most guaranteed you could possibly get at doing something. Because
I think probably the biggest value add there is those super specific goals, because we all, we're all human, and we say, well, we want to do this better. But then it's okay, but how? So I think, especially whenever you go back home and you're not on vacation anymore, and you're actually having to get down into the nitty gritty. I mean, it's so easy just to get back into that same old habit where you're not you're not doing those specific things to get better. So this is really valuable.
Yeah, we don't
thanks
lack.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, we don't lack lack of education. Like we all have we all know how to buy real estate, how to get in shape, how to improve our marriage, how to be a music star. We lack adherence to systems.
Yeah.
Like we don't define systems, and we don't stick with systems long enough for them to come true. But if we just did those things, we had systems, processes, we had a clear picture of where we're going, we had systems and processes to get there, and then we just worked it right. There's like success is almost guaranteed. Like, and the only reason it wouldn't be guaranteed is because your system doesn't work, or you didn't follow it like that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love it. I bought your what's the journal now?
Intention journal.
An intention journal a couple years ago, and I love it. And one of my favorite things about it is the consistency behind it. Whereas like there's so many times where I get excited about something and I'm like 2 weeks and I'm all in, and then after 2 weeks I'm like, oh, this sucks, or I'm just not doing it. That doesn't suck
75
anymore.
hard.
Yeah, 75. Don't wrap me up. But the thing is so like short-term intensity doesn't last. Long-term consistency is what matters and lasts, and how you can change your life. And that's what this intention journal and this is all about. Is that long-term consistent, making the consistent actions in the right direction.
That's it.
And you will change your life.
That's it, man. All right. Well, let's shift over to the last segment of the show.
Right.
We're going to start with a 3-2-1 pivot. So the idea being your life was headed one direction and something made it pivot, a change. 3 books, 2 people, and 1 quote. So let's start with the books. What 3 books have changed the direction of your life?
I already mentioned Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I'm going to say actually your 2 books.
Managing
and purchasing. I think.
Rental property investing.
Yes,
the book. It's a long title.
Yes.
The book on rental. The book on rental property investing.
I'm going to bundle those 2 together because I feel like you need to read both of them.
Yeah. They definitely
one after the other. And then the third one was Extreme Ownership.
Oh, I love it.
That's a great book. It kind of reframes, your mindset on. It's easy to blame outside influences, and then, take a step back, and it's like,
awesome.
Probably could have done that better, and
100%.
had a better outcome for sure.
Love it. All right, who are 2 pivot people, 2 people that have changed the direction of your life?
I've always kind of been a straight and narrow guy, but I think that comes from my upbringing. So there wasn't necessarily like an inflection point of my life, but if it wasn't for my dad, displaying what it means to be a man that cares for his family, that works hard, served his country proudly. If I didn't have him as a father figure to lead me as a young man, then I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm going to say my dad. He's my hero to this day. I'll call my dad. I mean, I'm almost 30 years old, but I'll call my dad if I ever need some advice, whether it be fixing a car or not this, but changing a light bulb, essentially, something mechanically. Or there have been times whenever like I'm maybe having an issue in the band, or maybe there's something going on in my career, and I'll just call my dad and say, how would you approach this?
Yeah, that's cool.
And I can always call him. So my dad for sure is my number one person. And then I'm going to say my father-in-law, Bill. He was the guy that kind of started getting me more interested in investing, and they've got investments, and he's been a lot like a mentor for me. He's also a professional pilot. He started getting me
that's right, you got your pilot
flight
license.
training. So he started me in the airplane, and he's someone that I can talk to also kind of about anything. How would you approach this deal? How, what was the level of risk that you're comfortable with on something like this? So I would say, my father-in-law, who I have a great relationship with, which is sometimes rare too.
Yeah,
so
I love to hear that.
Your
dads are so important.
Yeah, man.
A good dad, it's important stuff.
So important.
I love the fact that you and your wife both have incredible dads.
Yes.
So
I'm going to split the next question in half. There's the pivot quote. So it's a quote that changed the direction of your life. But I'm also wondering, what's your favorite lyric you've ever written?
Ooh.
Oh man. Gosh, this wasn't on the
No, it was
outline.
not on the pre-work.
I don't know. That's a hard question.
You can come back to it. But quote.
Maybe I'll come back to it.
Okay.
The one quote that I do specifically remember, kind of pivoting my life, was, "Nobody's going to work harder for you than you." I was trying to get a start in music, and I can ask so many people, how do I do this thing? Or you can ask people to book you at a show, or you can ask someone to manage you, or whatever it may be. But you have to understand, as a professional, there's not a single person that's going to do the work for you.
Yeah.
So, and this goes back to getting started in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it may seem like there's a big barrier to entry, like we talked about earlier, but really, if you just, again, focus and you apply yourself and you learn the things that you need to learn so that you can be successful, that's what it is. And you have to do the work. It's not going to be handed to you. It's not going to land in your lap. You have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's probably what's so great about the accountability pod too, is like, why aren't you doing what you're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, so, you're the one that said it. Why aren't you doing
exactly.
it? Yeah,
so that's the quote that really, like, I've always, ever since I heard that, I've like, okay, well, I better get to it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then lyric.
Oh gosh, back to the lyric question.
A favorite line from a song.
I've only written like 2 songs ever.
What about just any song?
Any song?
Any song? Oof, that's broad. I will answer the favorite line I ever wrote was, "How about tonight, white dress on a credit card."
Yeah,
I love that line. that was from that.
That's a pretty good line, actually.
Yeah, white. Yeah. How about
if I had to
tonight,
pick,
white dress on a credit card?
If I had to pick any line of any song, I would say "The Chair" by George Strait. Dean Dillon wrote that song, and it's, "Well, excuse me, but I think you've got my chair." And then at the end of the song, he goes, "That wasn't my chair after all," but it was a great pickup line. That's, in my opinion, the greatest country song ever written.
Who's the best country artist of all time?
I'm going George Strait.
Okay.
So many hit songs. Garth Brooks is pretty good. Alan Jackson is he wrote most of his stuff.
Yeah.
Which is kind of rare. Like Dean Dillon was kind of like the premier writer for George, and he had 60 number ones or something like that. But Alan actually wrote the majority of his songs, and he owns all of his own publishing.
Oh, really?
And he owns a bunch of that stuff. So anyway,
Do you write your stuff, or how did you collaborate?
yeah,
with people?
I write about 85% of my own stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not writing as much these days. Why? Because I don't have an excuse why.
Yeah, do you need to put that in your habit tracker?
That needs to be in my accountability pod for sure.
Dude, I remember my buddy Seth, who's like the music producer that I'm friends with that writes a lot of country hits. But we wrote that song together. We wrote a couple songs together, and I'm like, this is really good. He's like, yeah, just remember, it's not you wrote a song, it's you wrote 1,000 songs, and you pitched it 1,000 times, and one of them gets picked up, and out of every one that gets picked up, one becomes a single out of 10.
Yeah.
He's like, I've written 30,000 songs, and there's been a small handful, and I love that that example of like, it's like not magic. There's no magic to him having number one hit country song or whatever. Like when he gets that, it's because he's written 20,000 other ones that didn't go anywhere. It's just the consistency of writing every single solitary day.
Yeah,
yeah. There's so many lessons.
Yeah, and you can apply that to anything, really. I mean, real estate. If you're not analyzing, making offers on 100 offers, you may get one or whatever.
Yeah.
So, man, it's crazy. Like whenever you think about stuff that you do, I'll say daily, like writing a song, that you can apply that same kind of process to everything else that you do.
Yeah, you get the results of what you repeatedly do.
Yeah,
it just all comes down to that. So, all right, man. Past, present, future. Advice to your younger self.
Start now. Okay. Start earlier. No matter what it is. If it's investing, if it's reading, if it's working out, getting into the habit of working out. Just start now. Just start as early as you can.
All right. I've got two questions for you.
All right.
For present you. What is your number one rule right now for living a better life?
I think just recognizing that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now for a reason. Kind of going back to taking a look back over your shoulder to see where you've been and the things you've accomplished. I think it's really important to do that from time to time and reflect on that kind of stuff, because it's easy to get so caught up in, seeing what other people are doing. There's a quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy."
Yeah.
And it's so easy today to get on your phone and look on social media or whatever and see somebody accomplishing something that you think you deserve.
Yeah.
And I do that all the time. I mean, it's like probably one of my biggest struggles is comparing my career or myself to somebody else. But if I can mitigate that somehow by just recognizing the fact that, you know, I'm here for a reason and I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, that would be, you know, just taking a moment to reflect would be the thing I'm trying to be better at.
Love it. And then in the last year, what's like a habit or an action that you've done that has made your life better?
I think I'm going to go with the real estate stuff. I've really honed in on that because I've expressed to my wife, you know, I want to get to a point, you know, we're going back to the why. And we've had a number of conversations to where we can align our goals so that we're working towards that. So focusing on doing these things in real estate, analyzing deals or planning out various things that we're going to do to get there has been something this past year specifically that I've focused on. And I'm hopeful that I can continue to build on those and improve on those and you know, reach the goal of 50 units in 10 years or whatever it may be.
Love that.
All right. What do you want your legacy to be? Or another way to look at that question is when you pass away someday, how do you want your kids to talk about you and to say, oh, yeah, Wynn was what? Like what?
I want somebody to just say I was a good, honest man. And that kind of culminates a ton of different things, you know, respect and integrity and you know, somebody that you can trust. And that seems kind of generic. It seems kind of cliche, but there's so many outside forces these days that can influence you in so many negative ways. But if you try and have a little bit more of a positive mindset and focus on, you know, focus on doing the things that are good, doing the things that are right, then you're probably going to be better off than a lot of people in this day and age. But for my kids specifically, I just want to be able to build. I want to build wealth so that they do not have to ever need anything or you know, don't have what they want. I'd probably say something like that, man. Just I want somebody to look at my headstone and say, that was a good, honest man.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. All right, wrapping up. Question for you before we do. What are you excited about? What's coming up in your life that you're pumped about?
Man, I just got new management, and it is kind of like a breath of fresh air. We've got people that are excited to be, you know, working together, and we're already laying out goals. As soon as I get back from Hawaii, I'm gonna meet with my new manager, and we're gonna just sit down and spend the day together and say, okay, these are the things that we need to work on. These are the things we want to accomplish, and this is how we're gonna do it. So that's something that I'm really fired up about right now.
Do you have any tours coming up?
Man, we don't have a whole lot of stuff right now, so I'm fully independent. I'm booking myself. Ever since COVID, I've literally been like on my own.
Yeah.
So one of the things is getting a booking agent lined up. So that's what our number one priority. So when that happens, in theory, we should start to get more dates. But I'm booking everything out by myself. Going to be going back to Europe in October as well. Cool. So looking at getting out of state a lot more this year. So there's a lot of stuff in the works that I'm super pumped about.
That's awesome.
For the heck of it, just because I think it'd be fun to ask this question, before I get to the last word of people find you, what are some habits, actions, or constraints that as a musician would get you closer to the goals that you have set for your music? Like, what's something you can do every single day or multiple times a week repeatedly that would get you results that you want? Just curious what you
well, I can tell you one would be writing songs, which I don't do.
Did you write Tornado?
I did.
You did? That's a great song.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I need to add that to my daily.
Yeah, so it's
just sit down and write.
How many a week?
Yeah, I think it needs to be at least 2 a week.
Okay, I like it. What else? What else would help propel your career forward?
I think very early on, whenever I was right out of college, I would just learn as much as I could. So I learned how to do like Photoshop and Premiere Pro, and learned how to do all my own content, so that I didn't have to pay somebody to do it because that can get really expensive in a hurry. So if you just apply yourself and try and learn the things that will help you build your social media, or maybe you take an accounting course so you can make sure that your money's going to the right spot. there are various things in the music business that you can learn how to do, and you can read a book. There's a book called Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business, and it's a really valuable book. And I think if you just, for the person that's trying to get started, just read that book, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about the business specifically. Anybody can shoot a video of them singing a song or playing guitar or whatever, but if you want that consistent longevity in your career, then you've got to figure out the business. So I would say you got to learn the business.
Yeah.
I know that's not super specific on like a habit, but
well, you know, one thing I've seen work really well, not that you need any advice from me on music because you're the music guy, not me, but I've seen it work with like Noah Khan and some others like him, where they put out a mass number, like they write a song and then they immediately put it out on TikTok. Because TikTok just goes to everything, right?
Yes.
You immediately put it out there. And I do it with with my real estate content, right? I'll put everything on TikTok because I know that just goes out there. 99% of what I put out there just doesn't go to anybody. It goes like 300 people and that's it. It's dead. 1 out of 100 though goes to like 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 people. So there's something that we'll never understand that's magical about that. Just like why did Tornado do well and other songs you've written haven't? We don't know. There's no way of knowing. So what, like guys like Noah, I remember Noah Khan saying this in an interview one time, that the Stick Season, which is super popular, his song, he said he just put it on their TikTok and he was going to delete the song and like not even post it because he's like, this is a dumb song.
That'd been.
It's one of the greatest songs I think of the last few years. It's phenomenal. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, saw your mom. She forgot that I existed. That's such a good line. That's actually, I'm going to go. That line is the best. One of the best lines I think I've heard is, I saw your mom. She forgot that I existed. Dude. It's such a clever line. Especially how he rhymes it with Season of the Sticks. And anyway, so the point being, like, I bet you if you were like, I'm going to write a song, you know, like, or 2 a week, or I'm going to write even just a piece of a song every day, and I'm just going to throw it on TikTok. And the ones that just happen to do well, that tells me that thing was whatever the way I sang it, that hook, that little ditty, whatever you call those things, that appealed to people. Now I'm going to lean into that. Yeah. And so if you do that every day, you put out two videos every day of some music thing, and then the 1 out of 100, now you know to write a song about that thing and that. Yeah. I think approaching music from like a data aspect like that is the future. I mean, I think it's the future, and I think we're seeing. I think all the labels are doing that too. They're having their people just pump out tons of content because you don't know what's going to hit. So why not test it out?
I think you're probably right on that. Yeah.
Well, let's see your TikTok blow up, man. Let's see it.
Do you have a TikTok?
I do, but I am dude. If I did not have a music career, I would not have social media.
Dude, how many posts a week are you going to post on TikTok?
Well, I guess now I should at least do 1 a day.
All right, 1 per day or 7 per week. You can do all one day. You heard it here. There we go. Accountability, man. This is radical accountability. I'm holding you to it. All right. Where can people find you?
One-stop shop is WynnWilliamsMusic.com. I'm
WYNN?
WYNN. I'm most active on my Instagram, but Facebook as well. I'm not very good at Twitter. Obviously not very good at TikTok.
Is your Instagram Wynn Williams Music? Or
it's actually just Wynn Williams. Yeah. Just at Wynn Williams. So.
All right, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on today. This was fun.
Man, thank you. Thank you. Hey. Appreciate it.
Boom.
And that, my people, is the show. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the insights from the episode. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this episode or you enjoy the show in general, please consider leaving us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We really do value your feedback, and we read your comments to make future decisions about topics and guests and everything else. Plus, it helps us reach more people the more reviews we have. And last but not least, please head over to social media and consider friending, following, subscribing, and all that stuff to both BetterLife at BetterLife over on Instagram and my own personal at Beardy Brandon for more. That's Beardy with a Y at the end of it, Beard with a Y, Brandon on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere else. Thanks again for listening. I am honored that you would bring me along on your journey to building wealth without losing your soul. This show has been a production of the Better Life Tribe, copyright 2024. Our producer is Kevin Leahy with Podcast Point Man. Our videographer and all-around talented video guy, Carson Smith. My co-host is the amazing Cam Cathcart with DealFlowRealEstate.com. And finally, this show has been all about living a better life. But if you want my spiritual answer to what it takes to live not only a better life, but the best life, head over to abetterlife.com/best life. I got a 13-minute special video for you there. For the Better Life Tribe, my name is Brandon Turner, signing off.